Welcome to Gridiron Gamblers here on Pub Sports Radio, starring my man Andy Molitor from BetSperts and the Deep Dive podcast. Andy, regression was nowhere to be found.
I feel like I should get credit for some of that. I told you, I think you're probably just going to run the board this week. I didn't know that would actually happen. That's fucking wild. Whatever. Again, just enjoy it. It's few and far between. I can remember a few hot streaks I've had where it's like, man, I think I just won like 15 straight college basketball games or stuff like that. Like this is absurd, sir. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't change a thing. Don't change your underwear. Don't change your socks. And yeah, this is it's exciting. So let's go. It's week 3.
Week 3. It's extremely exciting. The 4 spots that I moved on Tuesday night cashed. I added 3 more on Sunday, and then I added 2 more on a Sunday and Monday. So 9-0, now 31-4 at 88.6% plus 26.7 units. Patriots minus 1.5 cash, Dolphins plus 3.5 cash, San Francisco, Seattle under 42.5 cash, Buccaneers minus 2.5, Jets plus 6.5, Tampa Bay, New Orleans under 43.5, and Cincinnati, Dallas under 42. That was broken down on NFL Pub Hub. Those really weren't on my radar, to be honest with you. But the group got me that cash. Bills first half minus 6.5 cashed. Eagles minus 2.5. Another spot on our Monday show. We were breaking down the game, and I kept coming back to the Eagles, and we moved there. Very, 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 very exciting, and I can't wait to keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Dan Kelly in the house. William Nasty Nate, Danny Lopez, Slatsy, Jared TD, Nutflush Allen, Gerald Jones. A great, great group. Did I say TD? TG. I am a little sick, so I don't think it's going to come into play, but the whole family's in rough shape right now. Jesus. But I focused solely on the work. That's what I did, and the work's done. And Andy, what I've been doing is I don't really come in with the game plan. I cap it with you and the chat. And I told you guys already before that I really believe that my gut is a losing gambler. What is succeeding is working with you, Andy, and the great cappers in the chat. So,
I've said that for years too. Like once I started talking to other people about any sports or just having conversations, and now that's spilled over into Discords and Twitter chats and whatnot. Like that's made me a lot better over the years. I'm kind of the same way. There's always some Sunday numbers I fire on, like Sunday night, way ahead of time. But a lot of my bets are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'll start looking at the weekend. I added Bills minus 10 late. I don't usually bet 10-point favorites. I don't usually bet late, but I just, for like the better part of 4 days, I couldn't make sense of that not being like 13, honestly. So I said, and then I was almost shitting on people that took the first half. I'm like, I don't know if I love that move. And then, of course, it comes through in spades, and I'm regretting my 10. That turned out to be a no doubter. No matter what way you bet the Buffalo Bills, what a goddamn wagon!
Whew, what a football team! What a football team! Well, let's get to work. Thank you guys so much for joining us, Michael Ervelina, Sky Dragon.
Sky Dragon,
go. Here. Sky Dragon in the house. Let's go. We start with the Thursday nighter. Thursday, September 22nd, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Pittsburgh Steelers 1-1, 1-0 on the road. The Cleveland Browns 1-1, 0-1 at home. At FirstEnergy Stadium in Cleveland, Ohio. 59 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, and 21 miles per hour is the wind. So there's been a big move to the under, and there's been a big move to the Browns. The Browns opened up at Pinnacle at minus 3.5. Right now, they're minus 5.5. That is a plus 104. So I would say it's really a 5 that we're at right now. From a total standpoint, it opened up at 40. It is now 38. It has dropped 2 points down to 38. We have 25,055 tickets in. 24% of tickets, 27% of the cash is on Cleveland, which means Pittsburgh is a public dog, and public dogs in the NFL fare very poorly. 65% of tickets and 92% of cash is on the under. Steelers come in off a 17-14 home loss to the New England Patriots. Mitch Trubisky was 21-33 for 160 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He's picking up just 5 yards per pass in 2022, and it's not enough. Deontay Johnson, 6 catches, 57 yards. Najee Harris ran 15 times for 49 yards, caught 5 passes for 40 yards. But the Steelers were unable to get a single first down in their final 2 drives with the game on the line. They finished with just 243 yards of total offense. After 2 games, Pittsburgh is 30th in yards per play and total offense. The question is, can the Steelers take advantage of a Browns team that is 25th in passing yards allowed per game? Miles Jack had 13 tackles, but the defense couldn't get pressure on Mac Jones. It was their first game without the services of star outside linebacker T.J. Watt, who's out with a left pectoral injury. The Patriots' offensive line dominated. The Steelers finished with 0 sacks and just 3 quarterback hits. Remember, 7 sacks in that Week 1 win over the Bengals. But as we saw in that Cincinnati game, maybe it's just the weakness of the Cincinnati offensive line and not the strength of the Steelers' front 7. Browns coming off a 31-30 loss at home to the New York Jets. They blew a 2-touchdown lead in the final 2 minutes. Some funny stats that came out about it. Teams had won 2,229 consecutive games when leading by at least 13 points in the final 2 minutes. The last team to blow that kind of a lead, the Browns, 2001. And they were very close to starting 2-0 for the first time since 1993 when Bill Belichick was their coach. Jacoby Brissett, 22-27, 229 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also rushed for 43 yards on 6 attempts. Hurt his left ankle in the 4th quarter. Stefanski said that Brissett's not on the injury report, and that's fine. Amari Cooper looked great, 9 catches for 101 yards. Nick Chubb, 17 carries for 87 yards, 3 touchdowns, caught 3 passes for 26 yards. He's a monster. Kareem Hunt, 13 carries for 58 yards, caught 2 passes for 16 yards. Browns are 9th in yards, 7th in points, but their defense is allowing 27.5 points per game, and they're coming off a home loss to the Jets. They're playing a very fast pace offensively, especially in the first half. Defensive end Jadeveon Clowney will miss Thursday's game. He hurt his right ankle. Jack Conklin was inactive for the 2nd straight week. He had underwent knee surgery in December. Here we go, Andy, the Thursday nighter Steelers-Browns. Take it away.
Yeah, this is the ugliest one in the card right off the bat. It's good to get it out of the way because a lot of opposing forces here, just right off the bat. If I was going to bet this, which I more than likely won't, I would be betting Cleveland and I'd be selling points. I'd be 5's kind of a dead number. I bet you could get 6.5 at like plus 110, plus 115. I'd find a place that lets you have some alternate lines. I'd play Cleveland up to that. The thing that worries me is the defensive injuries. Like you said, we're going to be missing not only Jadeveon Clowney, but Garrett missed some practice with a neck injury today. We're missing who is it? Chase Winovich. He was not a starter, but depth at the defensive line. So all of a sudden, we're going to be missing possibly 2 or 3 defensive linemen against a really bad offense. I know we haven't seen much out of the Steelers, and the Mitch Trubisky show isn't doing anything. He's been given the vote of confidence. So coach says we're gonna stick with this for a little bit when asked, pressed about starting the rookie. So it's going to be an ugly game, like you said. The low total, bad weather, bad offenses. I do believe in the Cleveland Browns run game. If they can get right, it's definitely going to be on the back of their running backs. They had some success with that. I don't understand what the defense did. They made some bad decisions, honestly, in that game. They should have won that game. They shouldn't have scored that touchdown. They could have just ran the clock out. But I really think maybe a little overlooked last week was we missed T.J. Watt. Yes, he's a great pass rusher. But overall, that defense didn't play that well against the New England rushing attack. And it's Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. These aren't Hall of Famers you're looking at. You're facing the best 1-2 running backs in the league. And I mean, you give about 5 yards to carry to those guys. So I think Cleveland will be able to run this team, but this total's probably about right, all things considered, with the weather and how anemic the Pittsburgh offense has been through the air. I think this game gets over in a tidy, 2.5 hours. This feels like one of those games where, holy shit, it's like 3rd quarter already. What happened? First game to go, well, obviously it's a standalone, but if it were a Sunday game, like one of those where, how is this game at halftime already? The other teams, partway through the second quarter. I'm leaning Browns. I can't hardly play on this one though. It's both teams have been so disappointing in multiple facets, and there's so many injuries involved here. I just I guess I love taking in a divisional game like this. I love taking the underdog. I just can't be talked into it with this offense. And I bet them a little last week. I did tease the Steelers. I took the under in that game. That was kind of a snoozer. That was nice. I worry a little bit about the Pittsburgh defense getting gashed a little on the run.
Yeah, I think that's all very fair and astute. The issue here for me is I have been cashing, and it's when my captain correlates with the sharp action, or I can end up getting towards the sharp action. And here we have the public all over the Steelers, and the market moving in the direction of the Browns. That's a red flag for me. It's not concerning Sky Dragon. He said he bet the over, and he'll bet Pittsburgh. I get it. No one wants Mitch. But what exactly do we love about Cleveland? Well, the only thing we love about Cleveland is Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper. That's the only thing we love. And with Clowney out, their defense takes a step back. In saying all that, do you agree this total at 38? Don't you feel like the Browns defense is so soft and the Steelers defense is not good enough to stop the Browns?
I will say in the defense of the Steelers, just in general, their injury report is nil. Granted, you don't put guys like TJ Watt who are already on the IR on the injury report. You do need to count them in that, but they don't really have injuries. Devin Bush a little bit, but he's going to play. So it's a full strength team playing a divisional opponent who just gave up a nasty, not only the backdoor, the loss to a horrible team, a quarterback whose best years passed him by 5 years ago. They even said he hasn't had a game with this high of a rating since 18. Joe Flacco beat you, man. That feels rough, but yeah, like I said, I have trouble betting a favorite in these close divisional games. That's why I'm going to have to pass on Cleveland. But like I said, if I did bet them, I'm selling it out to 6.5 or 7. I'm just they either Pittsburgh, might just not score. It's still a pretty good defense, and so much depends. Like if Myles Garrett plays, that's a big difference for me as well. So just kind of passing on this one and letting this ugly game pass me by. I'll maybe look at it live. I usually bet these second half.
And we'll be live here on Pub Sports Radio. Dutch Boy Fresh will be hosting. Birdie says Steele's D only gave up 17 points last week. Tomlin on a short week as a dog, sign me up, public or not. And Slatsy says all 3 starting wide receivers for the Steelers, questioning offensive coordinator Matt Canada's play calling.
Yeah, that's I think you can't put the whole blame on Mitch Trubisky, the play calling, the play sequencing. I think Matt Canada is a little in over his head. Nate Hackett's taking it on the chin as far as coaching, but Matt Canada might be one of those mid-season offensive coordinator firings. Like your true first coach fired might be a coordinator here if Pittsburgh can't get right.
Well, I have to have everything correlate for me to pull the trigger, and it's just not happening here. We'll keep an eye on all this. We'll keep an eye on the market moves, and we'll cap this again on Thursday morning on Betting with the Bag. So where we stand right now, no official pick, but Andy thinking about pushing the Browns to 6.5 points. And again, we've had this big move to the Browns and only 24% of tickets and 27% of the cash on them. Spenny Penny Bomb says Tomlin 14-7-1 against the spread, 5 or more point underdog, including 2-0 versus the Browns. Yeah,
those are good teams, though. Like for the most part, it's almost like the the Packers. Like, the Packers have been good they've had good quarterbacks for 25 years. Same thing with Tomlin. He's had really good teams. Any Tomlin kind of trend you're going to look at is going to be very positive.
No says take Steelers 13 plays to get field goals. That is the Thursday nighter. No move made by either of us. We move to Sunday and we stick with ugly games. 1 p.m. Eastern, Houston Texans 0-1-1, 0-1 on the road. At Chicago Bears 1-1, 1-0 at home. We're at Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois. 68 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 14 miles per hour. Move over to the line history in this one. Where is it? Here we go. We have the Bears opening up at -3, and they're pretty much still there. The -2.5 is -126. The 3 was at even money. Now the 2.5 was at even money 2 nights ago. Sunday night at 10 p.m. You could have got the 2.5 at even money. The 3 down to 2.5 was there for 2 minutes. It was there for 2 minutes before Houston moved to 2.5 at Pinnacle. Then we'll go over to the total here in this one. Opened up at 39. It's now up to 40, juice to the over. So we have an increase of 1 point and juice to the over. From a totals standpoint here, Texans, Bears, from a cash flow standpoint, 4,867 tickets in, 45% of the tickets, 82% of the cash on Houston. So this will be the third week in a row the sharps are going to be on the Texans. Now, it did start changing late last week, but initially the Houstons have had all the sharp money for now 3 weeks in a row. 57% of tickets and 76% of cash is on the over. There is Ski Profit in the house. Says Ace is about to start their parade, so I'm out, but good luck this week. Thank you for stopping by. And Ski's on the Bengals -4.5 to the bank. Sky Dragon says I'll bet Chicago and perhaps the under. There's LJ from H-Town, a spectacular football camper. Says Texans can't run the ball, 2.8 yards per carry. Bears can't pass, 4 yards per attempt. Play the under. Both teams are averaging just 14.5 points per game through the first 2 weeks. Houston comes in off a 16-9 loss at Denver. Davis Mills, 19 of 38 for 177 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Offense does not look good. Nico Collins caught 4 passes for 58 yards. Brandon Cooks, 4 for 54. Damian Pierce ran 15 times for 69 yards. The Texans' defense does look good. They got 3 sacks, 7 quarterback hits. Christian Kirksey had an interception. They lose linebacker Kevin Pierre-Louis to a groin injury in the third quarter. And their very high draft pick, Derek Stingley Jr., left as well. Jonathan Owens has been very strong in the back end, and they've allowed 36 combined points to Indianapolis and Denver. But the offense has been a very big issue, and they have very little skill position talent, and they've surrendered fourth quarter leads in both of their first 2 games of the year. Bears come in off that ugly 27-10 loss at the Packers. It was their 7th straight loss to the Pack. They're averaging 216 yards per game. That's last in the league. But I think we can excuse that a little bit. And I think that's why the over is getting bet. I think we can excuse that because it was a pouring rain, monsoon type situation in week 1. And then week 2, they're in Lambeau against an angry Packers squad. Justin Fields, though, 7 of 11 for 70 yards and an interception. He also ran 8 times for 20 yards. He did have a TD. David Montgomery ran 15 times for 122 yards. The Bears defense got absolutely diced up on the ground. 203 yards rushing they allowed. They did get 3 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. And their defensive back, Dane Cruikshank, hurt his hamstring in the first half. Take it away for us here, Andy. Another ugly one, but the good ones come. The Texans.
Yeah, we're really firing off on the ugly ones. We don't make the rotation order, guys. This is how things work. And yeah, the Bears games have been real tough hangs. We had the Mud Bowl. That was fun for the team, fun for the fans to get that win. They looked pretty bad against the Packers, and all in all, they were an inch away from pushing the +10. You know, that probably, there's some people that probably think that was a touchdown. We'll never know. You can't see the ball. You know, that's where we're at in the NFL. We need to put a goddamn chip in the ball so we can tell if things are in or not. But I digress. And yeah, the defense has looked good at times. It's tough when the Packers put together a game plan that really worked out as far as using the running backs. Lazard apparently made the difference with that team as they were able to move the ball here and there. I liked a lot of things. Still, what I saw from the front in Chicago. And yeah, the Texans defense has been pretty good. I do lean to the under here. I don't love betting these low totals because it's just every single touchdown just hurts that much worse. I said this last week, though, with the Pittsburgh New England under, that turned out to not really come that close. You know, it's hard to justify betting points in this as far as how bad the offense has looked for Chicago. And it's been a little bit of a nice surprise, especially in the front 7 from this defense. They are flying around. They're not facing Aaron Rodgers this week. And, the same thing goes for the Houston Texans. The defense looks good. And maybe if they're able to do anything on offense, it is against this Bears defense, like we saw, you can run on the Bears a little. They just don't have the game for that. They are starting a rookie. They kind of went back and forth. They didn't use him in week 1, and then we decided that it was all rookie in week 2 with Pierce. So yeah, this is probably an under. I'm gonna put it on the card. I'm not the strongest conviction play, but I run my stuff and I just can't get the Bears past like 17 points. And I think they probably still win this game more times than not. It feels like a 17-14 game. So this is an under look for me. And yeah, like Woo Rizza says here. I don't know if it's actually someone from the Wu-Tang Clan. Probably not. But yeah, if anything, maybe it's the David Montgomery game. This ends up being like 17-14 Bears. Montgomery with 2 touchdowns. He's been a bright spot on that offense because Justin Fields still doesn't seem to get it, and the play sequencing is still kind of trash.
Yeah, I get it. I get the move. Now, it's a spot where the bigger bets have come in on the over. We've seen it move to the over. The bigger bets have come in on the Texans. And I just have to stick with what's working for me. But we have our first look on the board, the under 40.5 at -108. And we need to keep an eye on the Texans because in baseball, the Oakland A's get the sharp cash every day. And even when they're at home and they're trash at home. A couple years back when the Browns were god awful, they had the sharp action on them every week. So the Texans
last year we saw that with Philly. You saw money come in on Philly week in and week out. Didn't work out all the time, but sometimes a team the market disagrees with the people with the most money, and you see these moves for a few weeks.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Birdie saying Jags too. I'm looking forward to break that game down. Ryan Thorson says love the under here. Minus a defensive TD. I don't see either team sniffing 20-plus points. Harold Williams says Fields has no playmakers and no offensive line, doomed to fail. Terry Walker also liking the under. There's Alex Ramirez, the Spidey play of the day. He is also on the
good point too with the playmakers. Not only do they not have playmakers, but even the ones they added, the rookie from Tennessee, and I know he's mostly special teams and depth, but even him and then N'Keal Harry, who they picked up, they're injured. So they did the worst possible job of trying to backfill at wide receiver, and then those guys got injured. It's just been a really rough go for Justin Fields as far as hoping the team cares about him. It just doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a stay off spot for me at this point. There's our guy Twate Latte. Yeah, it's just everything's coming up glorious right now, and we all know that the losses hurt more than the wins feel good. So just want to stick with this very nice feeling, this glow off of a 9-0 week. But feels good. Feels good. And Guillermo Zertucci in the house as well. There is and Spenny Pennybaum saying N'Keal Harry is a bust. There is Texans Bears. We have Andy on the board with the under 40.5. We move on. 1 p.m. Eastern. Las Vegas Raiders 0-2, 0-1 on the road. At Tennessee Titans 0-2, 0-1 at home. Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. 78 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 9 miles per hour. We will start with the line history in this one. And we've had a move to the under. But from a spread perspective, there has been a 9-cent move to the Tennessee Titans. They open up plus 2.5 at -105. Right now, they're at plus 2.5 at -114. There had been a slight move towards the Raiders, but that's changed in the last 24 hours or 22 hours. From a totals perspective, this opened up at 46.5 and has dropped to 45.5. From the cash flow in this one, we have 4,110 tickets in, 48% of the tickets, 54% of the cash on the Titans. So there's not a lot to learn from that. There is 45% of tickets and 93% of cash to the under. Raiders coming off the shock 29-23 overtime loss at home to the Cardinals. They were up 20-0 at the half, 23-7 with 9 minutes left. Derek Carr, 25 of 39, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns, threw for just 42 after halftime, was on the field for just 10 minutes. Mac Hollins led receivers with 5 catches for 66 yards. Hunter Renfrow caught 7 passes for 59 yards and then evaluated for a concussion after the game. He fumbled twice, that last one being returned for the Cardinals' game-winning score. Darren Waller, 6 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. And Devontae Adams shut down. 2 catches, 12 yards, 1 touchdown. And remember, and keep an eye on this, because remember Derek Carr thought he was forcing the ball into Devontae Adams in week 1. When he's not forcing the ball to him, he's not getting a lot of opportunities. Josh Jacobs, 19 carries for 69 yards. Max Crosby got the lone sack. They did hit Kyler Murray 7 times, and Meek Robertson had the pick. Defensive lineman Bilal Nichols injured his shoulder in the second half. He did not return. The Raiders' last 11 games as favorites, they've covered 1 time. And they are 5-6 straight up in those games. The Titans are on a short week after getting destroyed 41-7 at Buffalo on Monday Night Football. I was on the Bills' first half. Andy was on the Bills' full game. Coming off a 21-20 season opening loss to the Giants, they've opened 0-2 for the first time since 2012. Their offense looks abysmal. 187 total yards, 12 first downs, and just 2 of 11 drives finished in Bills territory. Tannehill, 11 of 20 for 117 yards. Ugly for a touchdown. Treylon Burks, 4 catches for 47 yards. Robert Woods had 4 catches for 39 yards, which gives him 5 catches for 52 yards through 2 games. Hassan Haskins led the Titans on the ground. I did not say Derrick Henry. Henry was 13 carries, 25 yards, did get a TD. Tennessee ranks 26th in yards per play. They got no pressure on Josh Allen, 1 sack, 3 quarterback hits, and they suffered a ton of injuries. Tyler Lewan did not return after hurting his right knee in the first quarter. Trenton Cannon didn't return after hurting his right knee on the opening kickoff. Bud Dupree hurt his hip. And so they brought Josh Gordon up from the practice squad. Wow, this is so many moving parts, Andy. Can you give us some clarity? Raiders, Titans.
Yeah, and the biggest thing there is the Tennessee injuries. Not only they have Landry hurt preseason, but now Dupree, and it's looking like that's not going to be the biggest deals. Again, we're sitting here on Tuesday. You guys know what the Monday injury reports look like. It's like, hey, they do the pretend one, where it's if we had practice today, here's the guys who would have participated and not participated. So you don't get a ton of info on Mondays. Sometimes some teams are cagier than others, but yeah, the Christian Fulton missing last week, Taylor Lewan carted off, the Bud Dupree injury. So you could be missing multiple pieces up front. You could be missing your best one of the best left tackles in the league against a good pass rush. And if you look at the stats from like a 10,000 foot view on the Raiders, it looks like a middle of the pack rush defense. But you kind of put a little context to that. You're not going to face schoolyard play Kyler Murray every week. Like he inflated those numbers for last week. Like I do believe it's a half decent rush defense. And man, we might be at the point where Derrick Henry, the carries, the totes, the tackles, all the wear and tears finally caught up to the guy, and he just doesn't have that same burst. I have a hard time saying a lot of nice things about the Tennessee Titans right now. They were embarrassed. They ended up, going to garbage time with the young rookie early. It was crazy how early we had both backups in that game. It just turned to be a second half bloodbath. The only good thing I saw from the Tennessee Titans was their first drive. I think, you see those scripted first drives where the team looks good because they've practiced that drive all week. And from there, it was pretty rough. Tannehill has been set up to fail. Henry looks bad. Really, they lucked into a pretty decent young receiver in Burks. That's maybe their bright spot on offense, and the bright spots on defense are all getting injured. It's tough. I don't like taking a road favorite here, but I have a lot of respect for, I guess, the Raiders offense. At least they've done some nice things. It feels like it's still a work in progress with the new coach, and they hurt me deeply because I had that under. And I had it at an early number. I didn't get the 52.5. I didn't see it going up. I did not predict the market going that way. I thought it'd go under. And it ended up going to 52.5, landed on 52. I was very upset with that because all I needed was just a field goal in overtime, and not the fumble 6. The Raiders deserve better. I liked them in a nice bounce back spot, and then Tennessee on a short week getting the snot beat out of them. There's a flat 2 in the market right now, 2 minus 110. I guess I'm betting every Raiders game this year. This will be the first one I win if we get this one through. So, yeah, and like we said, with Taylor Lewan hurt, you're going to end up with some Raiders in the backfield. Max Crosby could have a big game. Tannehill is one of the most. He only got sacked twice, and granted, he didn't play the whole game, but he was one of the most sacked. I believe the second most sacked quarterback last year. I think you can guess who the most sacked quarterback was up there in Cincinnati. But I think the Raiders pass rush is going to have a field day, and I'm going to take a -2 here.
Well, let's lock you in. Even as we've been speaking, bigger bets are coming in Tennessee. It was 54% of the cash. It's now 58%. So, I would like to make a point of buying low and selling high. I guess you could say that even if you took the Raiders or the Titans, you would be buying low.
Yeah, you're buying low on anybody here.
Gerald Jones leaning heavy towards the Raiders. A lot of disgust for Tannehill in the chat. Alex says Raiders are 3-1 last 4 against the spread and 3-0 last 3 against Titans. However, they're also 0-13 as non-division favorites. Yeah, we talked about how bad they've been as favorites. All right, well, let's find Andy the best line available for his Raiders. Move over to point spread, and here we go. For the Raiders, we can find you a -2 at -110. -2.
That's perfect because that's what I bet.
Andy.
I bet Chris right now. I'm sure it's there a lot of places.
There you go. You're on the board, and thankfully you are, because I have not found an angle at this point. Maybe we'll find it in our next game. 1 p.m. Eastern, Kansas City Chiefs 2-0, 1-0 on the road at the Indianapolis Colts, 0-1-1, 0-0 at home. We're at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And, man, these Colts have worries, enormous worries. I know Frank Reich gets off the slow starts, but this is a little much. Let's take a look at the line history here. The Chiefs opened -6.5 at Pinnacle. Now, this was on Sunday at 7:48 p.m. Opened at -6.5, -106. And it's now -6.5, -102. So there's been a 4-cent move towards the Colts. From a total standpoint, it opened up at 49. It is now at 50, but it's heavily juiced to the under, so it's probably really a 49.5. When we take a look at the cash flow, you have a ton of bets on this game. There's more bets counted on this game than any other. 17,842 tickets in, and 33% of the tickets are on the Colts, but 41% of the cash. So there's some sharp action there. Then you have 60% of the tickets and 94% of the cash on the under. Yeah, it's gone up a point or a half point, depending on where you shop. Birdie says, if Leonard plays, I will be betting the Colts. If he doesn't, I won't. The Chiefs will start with them on extra rest after defeating the Chargers 27-24 at home on Thursday night. Mahomes was 24-35 for 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Kelsey led receivers with 5 catches for 51 yards. Justin Watson, 2 for 50 and a touchdown. McCole Hardman caught 3 for 49. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked good, 8 carries for 74 yards, caught 4 passes for 44 yards. And the whole game changed when Jalen Watson returned the interception, 99 yards for a score. They got 2 sacks and 8 quarterback hits on Justin Herbert. One of those hits by defensive end Mike Dana fractured Herbert's rib cartilage. Dana left in the fourth quarter with a calf injury. Kansas City also has been solid against the run this season, allowing just 3.9 yards per carry. Is it time to panic in Indianapolis? Coming off a discouraging 24-0 shutout loss at Jacksonville, the Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014. Matt Ryan looked awful. 16-30, 195 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks. Ashton Doolin led the receivers with 5 catches for 79 yards. Jonathan Taylor couldn't even get going. 9 carries for 54 yards, caught 1 pass for 9 yards. Got no pressure on Lawrence, 0 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, and they played without 3 key starters. We already heard Birdie talk about all-pro linebacker Shaquille Leonard, but receivers Michael Pittman and rookie Alec Pierce also not in the lineup. Take it away for us, Andy. Chiefs, Colts.
Yeah, it feels like a Colts or nothing. It's a lot of points at home. for a team with a good offensive line. We haven't seen it from JT. We haven't seen it from Matt Ryan. And obviously your best wide receiver missed last game, and they looked atrocious on offense against the Jags. It was horrible. Their first two games honestly have been horrible. Couldn't really get much worse. I guess maybe if you lost the first one, it would have been a little worse. I tend to like this over a little, but there's so many injuries still I'm waiting for in Indianapolis I need to find out about. I lean Indy, but not strong enough conviction to play either one without knowing about Pittman, without knowing about Leonard, without knowing about a few other things. And then also just maybe it's a gross buy low spot, but it's, again, this isn't college football. The difference between the best team in the league and the worst team in the league, at most turns out to be like 15, 18 points. That if there's a really, really horrible team, Indianapolis, their floor is probably middle of the pack team. These teams, so you're saying Kansas City on the road, put it at a neutral, say Kansas City's 9 points better than Indy. That's probably close, but it's a bit high for my liking. It's still early in the season. We got to lean on our priors from last year a little. And Kansas City didn't deserve to win the game last week. They should have lost that game. They were outgained. They had to take the biggest swing in honestly all of sports is the 100-yard interception return. The win probability swings harder on that than almost anything, depending on what time of the game it is. So it's a team that didn't honestly look that great last week against a better opponent. They looked good in week one, but I'm not sold on the Chiefs yet. It's just such a hard team to take a buy low spot on with Indy. And if Indy doesn't get these injuries right, it's a hard pass for me. So I'm going to watch this one. What did you say the total's been doing on this? I have not paid attention to that. I'm seeing 49s in the market. So maybe it's been bet down a little, but I don't know, kind of wait on that. We'll see what the Kansas City Chiefs game plan is. A little bit more of shorter stuff, march down the field. They're not the quick strike offense we've seen. Obviously, their quick strike offense is down in Miami now, so maybe that total's fine. But yeah, Indy or pass for me. And again, waiting for news.
And the Chiefs head to Tampa next week, so it may be somewhat of a tough spot. Noli No says thinking under here. Sammy Comer says Pittman expected to be back. Gerald Jones says Colts without Pittman are a bottom 5 offense. Jared TG says just feels irresponsible to bet on Indy after seeing them play. I get it though.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. But we're sitting here on Tuesday, 5 days before game time with sharp action on the Colts. This opened at Pinnacle at 49. It's basically a 49.5. It's a very juiced 50. But there are 49s out there. You're right. Bookmaker Bet Chris, there are a couple 49s out there. Damon Santori saying the Colts need Leonard also. But I have to stick with this plan where things have to correlate for me to pull the trigger and not push it or force anything. But in talking about that under, 60% of the tickets, 94% of the cash is on that under. Surprised that the books aren't nervous about it.
Yeah, limits are lower this time of week.
That's true.
I'm not sure how much you can really, even at Chris, who takes pretty big limits on an under right now, $3,000. So they're not taking big money yet. So be interesting to see where this total moves once limits go up on Wednesday.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. There's the chameleon in the house. Thanks for joining us. Mad Capper, Colts money line. Wow.
Sassy.
Wow. And Birdie said it's funny because if the Colts win, they're 1-1-1. All this worry goes away. Colts need this win. But Topset says, why don't we close with this? Can you answer this? What Topset's saying? He says, after what the Bills did, it's pedal to the metal. Mahomes wants and will exploit that. What do you think of that angle that they saw what the Bills have been doing?
I don't know. I worry that the Chiefs have just turned into an NBA team where they understand, like, hey, guess what? We're going to make the playoffs. We probably win our division. We're going to be a top 3 seed. Like, we don't need to go pedal to the metal during the regular season like the NBA teams do, where you see this just big chunks of malaise over games that they should win, because all they need to do, let's just get to the playoffs and get it done. And that's what happens after you win a Super Bowl and have had several other close calls. I think it becomes let's get through these 18 weeks healthy, and get to the playoffs, because big challenge. A lot of good teams, and suddenly Miami threw their hat in the ring this week too.
I guess I have interest in the Colts. I guess I have
for sure. If they're fully healthy, it's too big. It should be 6.
And if I don't want to bet the Colts and I have interest in them, I could take the Chiefs team total under 29.5. On the road. Are they going to break 30 on the road here? Maybe they don't need to win this football game. Okay, so I'm going to put Colts and Chiefs team total under.
I like that a lot if Leonard plays, yeah.
Yeah, and Brady says you have to wait for Leonard. Okay, so those are going to be my angles at this point on Tuesday, and we'll see. All right, that was Chiefs, Colts. Andy, you're staying off at this point.
Yep.
Let's talk about the aforementioned Bills and Dolphins. Ooh, this is going to be a wild game. Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Gardens, Florida. 85 Fahrenheit, scattered thunderstorms, 12 miles per hour. One thing about that Colts spot is that I wouldn't double up on that. I wouldn't take both the Colts and the Chiefs team total under. I would have to decide between one of them. I don't want to be too invested in that shit football team. 85 Fahrenheit, scattered thunderstorms, 12 miles per hour. Let's take a look at the line history here in this one. This is going to tell a lot, I think, about what we will see the rest of the season. This opened up with the Bills minus 5.5 point road favorites. It's moved to 6, but that 6 is at plus money, so it's still probably a 5.5. The total opened up at 52. It's moved to 53.5. It is climbing, and it's minus 113 to the over. I think this might be a good opportunity to fade everybody's recency bias on the scoring exploits of these two offenses, but let's talk it out before we decide to do anything that risky. 7,061 tickets in, 66% of tickets, 83% of the cash on the Bills. Then 83% of tickets, 83% of cash on the over, which tells me that total will still rise. Bills have beaten the Dolphins 7 straight times, and they've scored an average of 36.8 points per game during that stretch. Bills have looked absolutely dominant through their first 2 games. They beat up on the defending champion Rams 31-10, destroyed the Titans 41-7, but they're on a short week. Josh Allen, 26 of 38, 317 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, sat out the whole fourth quarter. Top 300 yards passing for the 15th time of his career. Stephon Diggs was a monster, 12 catches, 148 yards, 3 touchdowns. He broke 100 yards receiving in each of his first 2 games. Previously, that's only been accomplished by Andre Reed. Hall of Famer Andre Reed, who Left Eye Lopez burnt his house down. James Cook ran 11 times for 53 yards. Their defense completely shut down Derrick Henry, holding him to 25 yards on 13 carries, 1 touchdown. Matt Milano returned the second of Ryan Tannehill's 2 picks for 43 yards and a touchdown. They held the Titans to just 187 yards of offense, 2 of 11 on third down. They got 2 sacks and 3 quarterback hits. The bad news, and there is bad news in Buffalo, is that they've been suffering multiple injuries. So we saw what happened to Dane Jackson. It was very scary. Went to the hospital, full movement in his limbs. Micah Hyde sustained a neck injury. Milano is supposed to be fine, but he left the game. His stinger. Defensive tackle Jordan Phillips hurt his hamstring. And number 2 wide receiver Gabe Davis was inactive after hurting his ankle in practice on Saturday. So the Dolphins come in off a huge comeback victory, 42-38 at Baltimore on Sunday to move to 2-0 under new coach Mike McDaniel. There's clearly a good feeling in Miami. They were down 35-14 with 13 minutes left. Miami had 233 yards in the fourth quarter. Tua was incredible. 36 of 56 touchdowns, 2 picks. His first 400-yard passing game. 6 touchdowns, tied the team record held by Bob Grease and Dan Marino. Tyreek Hill caught 11 passes for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. Waddle, 11 passes for 171 yards. Everybody talking about that being the number 1 wide receiver 1-2 pair in the league, although we do know that teams are now putting out 3 wide receivers on 90% of sets, but they're a nasty 1-2 punch. Raheem Mostert, 11 carries for 51 yards. While the offense looked excellent, the defense did not. They finished the game with 0 sacks and did not register 1 hit on Lamar Jackson. The Ravens gave up 471 yards of offense against the Fish. Ugly. Very ugly. And Miami lost Cedric Wilson to rib issues, but questionable. This is a fun one. Take it away, Andy. Bills, Dolphins.
Yeah, and your quick correction from the chat.
Oh,
Not even football related. Andre Rison had his house burned down.
you're
I thought
right.
that was funny that half the chat was talking about that instead of the damn game because
Right. You're right. It's my bad.
she did burn a guy's house down though.
Yeah, it's my bad. You're right.
She's not off the hook.
That wasn't in my notes. I don't know. It wasn't supposed to come out of my mouth.
That was that was ad lib. That was great. Yeah, really tough. Prisoner of the moment for both teams. Buffalo just beat the ever living shit out of somebody. Just like, oh my God, stop! They're already dead, kind of thing. And then Miami with a crazy comeback. I was on Miami. I had plus 3.5 with a little money line. I was happy with just like if they lose by 3, that's the bigger bet. That's fine. I could not believe they ended up getting that win. What a second half. Tua looked great. Tyreek, they're finally connecting. It's funny. Tyreek, I pointed this out in a tweet. Tyreek had 160 yards receiving, and this was at a point in the game. He was not their leading receiver at that moment. Just wild what those two have done. Tougher defense. You're not going to be facing a team who has 3 or 4 injuries in the defensive secondary. That's the reason I played Miami. I thought they'd have luck right off the bat. It was kind of a disappointing first half. I thought the passing game would be right from the beginning, and they that wasn't great. And their defense didn't look all that good. Lamar did some things we didn't think we'd see him do because, people have talked about his contract status and maybe him running less, but fuck, he looked really good. Buffalo's a much better team than Baltimore. Like the fact that this is 5.5 on the road is probably about the right number. I don't have a strong side here. And then I do lean the under, but you really want to get in the way of these offenses. Buffalo's defense, and that's the other point too. Buffalo's defense, and especially their secondary is healthy, and even both teams healthy. I think it's a better defense, better secondary than Baltimore. Miami's going to struggle a little here. I have trouble laying this many points on the road, especially in Miami. It's proven a tough place to play early in the season. Just the heat, the humidity of going down there. I mean, it was like 80 degrees out today with humidity. I was miserable. I can't imagine going down and getting swamp ass on South Beach playing football in it. So, and the weather looks like shit. It looks like there's storms coming through. Fully staying away. I'm really excited to watch this one. This will be on the big TV, but yeah, I'm not getting involved in this one right now at all. And then Jimmy the Bag points out in the chat, if you want the under, should wait for kick the right time. There might be some oversteam in this just with what everyone's seen from these offenses. So you might get a higher number.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I do lean towards I just think it's impossible whenever I see these lines for the Bills to not lean towards the other side immediately. I did it with the Titans. I used the Titans in contests where I have to pick every game, and I lost. I have won both the first 2 weeks, which I've not seen anyone do. It's 85 people in the contest, but these are big. Like I would be pretty comfortable, in all honesty, if I was sitting here on Sunday and I had, the Colts at plus 6.5 and the Fish at plus 6.5. I think that's a nice spot to have home dogs at that number. I really do. I don't know if I have the balls to pull the trigger, but I do.
Well, Buffalo's just won so many games. When they win by margin. When they win, they're such a front runner. I think this is a good look for the second half. If this is a close game at halftime, I think I could take Miami second half. But if Buffalo's up by 8, 10, 12, 14 at halftime, I may even just pile on Buffalo second half. They are a great front runner team. They can, even though they don't run the ball. Most of these front running teams are like, hey, they're great with the lead. It's because they have a good run game. They can just run. They can keep drives going. They don't let you come back because you don't have the ball. Buffalo doesn't give a shit about running the ball. Their best running backs taking snaps. They have a few different guys they use, but they're bound and determined to just be a passing team, and it's really, really working for them. So I have trouble getting in the way of them, although if it did get to 6.5, that's pretty tempting.
Spending Penny Bomb says quick turnaround Monday night to Sunday afternoon in Miami. Bills will win, but maybe it's weird, like a 31-27 4-point win. Birdie likes Bills first half. They start well. They sure do. If there was some sharp money, I don't care that it's 80. What is it? No, if they 34% of the tickets on Miami, 17% of the cash. If that was the other way around, if it was 17% of the tickets and 34% of the cash, I would bet the Dolphins. But I'm not going to be able to. Nutflush Allen says, remember how hot it was in that stadium? No, I have very little memory because of all the boozing I did down there. I remember being completely at peace. Bills, Dolphins, no move for us yet. Is there any? So we're looking to see how high this total gets. Is that fair to say, both of us?
Yeah, I mean, if it keeps going up and then the weather report keeps turning sour, I could be talked to an under, although just rain does not usually get you an under. You need rain with wind. In fact, sometimes rain can hurt you if you're betting an under, as defenders will be slipping, and defenders have to react where offensive players determine where they're going. So sometimes rain without wind isn't a recipe for an under. You do need a little bit of the gusts from the gods, which obviously you get that more in Cleveland than in Miami.
Michael Irvelina says, don't forget most Bills starters rest the whole second half, or at least the whole fourth quarter for sure.
It kind of takes away some of the, the short week momentum that you're going to have with Miami bettors.
Wow. Bills, Dolphins. So I have interest in the Dolphins and the under, but I don't even know if I need to write that down. I'll write the under down in my notes and just see how high it gets.
Yeah.
But these teams have shootouts when they play against each other. At least the Bills, 36.8 points per game during that 7-game win streak over Miami. BJ says Bills continue to roll. They were plus 500 to win it all before the 41-7 blowout. Now they're plus 400.
I would just cheer for that. The most money, not the most money I could win, but the most money I have staked preseason is Josh Allen MVP. So if he just keeps doing that, I'll take it. So essentially, I've already bet the Bills. I bet the Bills every week. I need him to just truck and never get hurt. I already just jinxed him by talking about it. So prayers up, Josh. Stay healthy.
Okay. I don't believe in any of those things, man. I don't believe in jinxes.
I don't either.
I don't believe in any of that shit. All right. Bills, Dolphins, we move on. 1 p.m. Eastern, a real fascinating game. The Detroit Lions, 1-1. 0-0 on the road at the Minnesota Vikings, 1-1, 1-0 at home. I would really like to point out these teams that are facing a road game for the first time this year. And so last year the Lions averaged 19.1 points per game. After 2 years, they're averaging 35.5. What, Andy, do you see this continuing? Is it ridiculous, or do you see this possibly continuing?
So a bunch of it was, week one, a lot of it was in low win probability time, like not quite garbage time at the end because it got a little close, but some of it was against Prevent there. They were down decently. And then last week, that was just a good matchup for them. And they looked good. And honestly, Sun God, if you got him in like your 6th or 7th round of the fantasy league, you're probably doing well. That guy is putting up points. He's putting up numbers. God, he's good. Everyone thought Swift was going to be a big part of what carries his offense. It's St. Brown right now. It's been a fun team to watch, and they get to go indoors again. This is a higher total. This is one I talked about Sunday night. There was 51s that I regret not betting. So I said, I bet this gets to 53 in a hurry, and it's surpassed that at this point. So congrats anyone who took an early number. I still think it's maybe a bit too low, and this is probably a decent buy low spot on Minnesota after looking pretty bad against maybe the best team in the NFC. And I say that because Tampa Bay is not healthy, nor have they shown me they can stay healthy. Eagles might be number 1 in the NFC power rankings right now. That was a tough ask. And Minnesota still moved the ball. They moved the ball numerous times. You just had a good secondary and Kirk Cousins in primetime throwing a bunch of turnovers. Like Minnesota probably deserved a few more points in that one. They racked up a decent amount of yards. Irv Smith dropped a sure touchdown pretty much. Minnesota wasn't as bad as they seemed in that game, but clearly they were still overmatched. The Eagles are very good. The Eagles would have scored more points if they needed to. And yeah, Minnesota laying 6 is a little tough. But that's the lean here. Lean towards favorite and over in a divisional game because it is kind of a bad matchup. The Lions secondary probably struggles with, Irv and Thielen and Justin Jefferson. And at the same time, I don't know what I can say nice about the Minnesota defense. The secondary looked pretty poor at times, missing tackles, letting the Eagles kind of do whatever they want. This isn't the same offense. I don't fear Goff like I fear Jalen Hurts, but yeah, probably still an overlook here. And it's just because I was hoping we'd open a little lower on Minnesota. I was hoping they'd overreact and we'd get some silly number on them and be able to snap up a 4 or something, but that number's probably about right. And the Lions, it's a frisky offense that just don't quit. I think you can bet this over, and when it's at 42 points in the first half, you can sit and take an over 27 in the second half and cash that too, because the Lions just they don't take drives off on offense. It'll be a fun game. I'm excited to watch this one for sure.
Vikings open up at -6 now, 5.5 at Pinnacle. Pinnacle waits. Pinnacle waits to drop their lines. They don't put their early action. They're not like, Bet Online and other books that give you real early looks before the games go for the following week. 53 right now. It opened at 52. 53 right now. So let's take a look at where the cash lies in this one. 5,686 tickets in. You have 30% of the tickets and 35% of the cash on the Minnesota Vikings. Then you have 76% of the tickets and 98% of the cash on the over. 98% of the cash. So now averaging 35.5 points per game. We have not seen them play on the road, and clearly they're fighting for Campbell. As you said, they don't take drives off. That's apparent. Lions coming off that 36-27 win at home over the Commanders. First time they'd been a favorite since 2020. They led 22-0 at the half. Jared Goff was 20 of 34 for 256 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. There is talk on sports radio right now when people talk about Waddle and Tyreek that next year they'll say that the Detroit Lions have the best 1-2 receivers in the NFL, which I was like, come on, really? But look, Amon-Ra St. Brown has been spectacular. 9 catches for 116 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran twice for 68 yards. First player in league history to have 6 straight games with at least 8 catches and a touchdown. Tied the NFL record with 8+ catches in 8 straight games. DeAndre Swift, 5 carries for 56 yards, caught 2 passes for 31 yards, and a touchdown. Jamal Williams, 12 carries for 53 yards. And the Lions defense swarmed Carson Wentz. Aiden Hutchinson, 3 of the Lions, 5 sacks. The Lions hit Wentz 11 times. So you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th pick, I believe, out of USC. And then you have Aiden Hutchinson, the number 2 overall pick. What you're seeing is these draft picks, these high draft. Now, I know that Amon-Ra was just a great draft. Yeah. But they're starting to show up. So Hutchinson joined Julius Peppers and Chip Banks. Only those 2 guys. Julius in 2002, Chip in 1982, his top 10 picks to have 3 sacks within the first 2 games of their career. He's the 4th youngest player with a 3-sack game. Vernon Maxwell, Nick Bosa, and Greg Townsend were just a little younger than him. Will Harris had an interception. The Lions did all of this without starting offensive lineman Jonah Jackson and Frank Ragnow. They were inactive, as was the team's top cornerback, Amani Oruware. So you have Oruware questionable and Melifonwu questionable. Those are 2 big pieces at cornerback. I think this is a great buy low spot on the Vikings. Let's go back to their spread right now. Again, you have 30% of the tickets, 35% of the cash. The only question you'd have to ask yourself now is, can you get better than the 5.5? In saying that, we had, where is it? Our guy Birdie says, after that first scripted TD in the Green Bay game, the Vikings have scored 23 points over 7.5 quarters. I know you know this Minnesota team inside and out. Before I break down the Minnesota side of things, which isn't very long, you've touched on most of it, but what do you think about what Birdie's saying after that first scripted TD in the Green Bay game, 23 points?
That's probably the reason I'm passing on this game. I have the thing I've liked the least so far about the 2022 Minnesota Vikings has been the thing that everybody harped on as being the biggest positive coming into the season. I don't love the play calling. I don't think Kevin O'Connell has just unlocked this offense and there's a lot of first down runs, even when they were down 3 scores. They get the ball back with short time, and it's a first down run off tackle with Dalvin Cook. Like, the urgency wasn't there. It was very odd to see the sequencing of the plays. It just feels like Mike Zimmer never left at certain points. And yeah, I thought this offense would be a lot better. So it's a hard pass on this game. Even with the over, I worry that Minnesota, even against a lesser defense, is still going to just go with this offense that's not using their strengths to a T. I haven't loved what I've seen from Kevin O'Connell right now.
Yeah, I think I got a little carried away with the way he kept Jefferson away from Jair Alexander in week 1, but I think
I love that part of it, but other than that, yeah, it's been mildly disappointing. It still can turn around. It's early in the season, but just be a big opportunity for it. You can beat these corners.
Sammy Comer says Lions and no on the road and off a win. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough spot too. Coming off a win, heading into a divisional road game. Again, divisional games, I enjoy taking the dogs, but 6 points, 5.5, not a ton, especially with a nice high total here. Just a pass for me.
Vikings on the short week after that 24-7 loss to Philadelphia. Andy talked about how good Philadelphia might be. Cousins was, and we'll talk more about that when we break down that game, but Cousins was 27-46, 221 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Jefferson, 6 catches for 48 yards a week after he had 184 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns in the win against Green Bay at home. What about Dalvin Cook? Andy, 6 carries for 17 yards. They had 3 rushing first downs in the entire game.
Are there any good running backs this year? I'm trying to think of like your top 5 running back performances of the whole season in the whole league. Like Saquon had a real nice week 1. It's weird. It's just turned into an odd season for me for some of these top running backs. We're not seeing these these high-end guys do it a lot, and I don't understand why. It's probably just a small sample size thing, but Dalvin looked good, I think, and he looked good last year, and a lot of it was the scheme. They had this nice zone running scheme. I just haven't seen a lot of success out of him yet this year. I think it's probably yet to come, and it sucks that it's a short week to try to prepare for this, but hopefully, if you're a Minnesota fan or you want to back them at the 5.5, you got to hope O'Connell has some way to try to get him, useful in this game.
I would love to get a first half at 3.
Yeah.
If I could get a first half at 3, I would bet it immediately. It's 3.5 right now at -105. I also like the Vikings. I think this is the opportunities that we lust for, and that's a buy low opportunity against a team that you can sell high in the Lions. I want the Vikings here. I want the Viking here. Is there any concern that Harrison Smith, he was evaluated for the concussion after the game? Is there any concern that he might not be in?
There is, and also, even if he's healthy, he looked kind of bad. He's been high end for many years, and that doesn't last forever. He missed some tackles. He got roasted once. He had that terrible attempt at a tackle near the goal line. He didn't look great at times. So I'm just kind of out on this Minnesota defense at times.
Now, I know we talk about your favorite team is just whoever you're betting on, and not to have allegiances, but you are very close to this football team. Did that 24-7 loss? Are you soured on this group right now because of how close you are to this football team?
No, I haven't been a fan for years. It is funny. I had to grab something from the grocery store late on a couple evenings ago. It was Monday, and there was nobody working, and there's some people, and obviously I live in Minnesota, and a bunch of people who were working at the grocery store had congregated and were talking about the game, and you could hear them like, there's no way the Vikings lose. The Eagles have one weapon. They'll just stop A.J. Brown and we'll be fine. So be interesting to go talk to those guys again today. But there was high hopes after that Green Bay game, and I don't know. I thought the offense would look a lot better. The defense did about what I expected, but that is the main concern here for me. As a close to the team guy, the offense was supposed to take a big step forward with this McVay tree guy and Kevin O'Connell, and just haven't seen it.
I wasn't that high on the Eagles after the the way the Lions kind of came back on them. I could understand the talk about letting the foot off the gas. But when it came down to game time, it was 50-50 for the tickets. 50-50, but 70% of cash was on the Eagles. When you see that opportunity and you know the sharps and the pros and the syndicates are hammering aside, just go with them. That was my thought process. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go with them. And that's what I did. Okay, that's first quarter. Okay, Alfonso, I hear you. And then Birdie says, how are we buying low on Mini at -6? I guess that's fair. I mean, it's 5.5 now. And by looking at it right now, Birdie, with the amount of tickets that are on Detroit, 70% of the tickets, 65% of the cash, that would it surprise you to see a 5? Could you see a 4.5 if you did?
It doesn't take much to move down to a 5,
Yeah.
Not super key numbers.
Yeah. Res Mob in the house says it's a classic Kirk Cousins bounce back spot. He does it every season. Mark Jacobs still likes the Vikings to win the division. Okay. Well, let's move on. I'm interested in the Vikings. The interest in the Vikings and the total just seems like something I don't want to be involved in at this point. But if I was to get involved in the total, I think I would prefer a first half. But I guess I take that back. If I do think the Vikings are in control, I think they're going to want to have long drives. Okay, we move on. You're staying off this spot, or do you want the over in Lions Vikings?
No, I'm staying off this. Too many questions. Okay. Not enough answers.
We move on. 1 p.m. Eastern. Baltimore Ravens 1-1, 1-0 on the road against New England Patriots 1-1, 0-0 at home. Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Here we have another football team who gets to have their home debut here at Foxborough. And I cashed on the Patriots, and I cashed fading the Ravens last week. 67 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 9 miles per hour. Let's go back to the one thing that did kind of irk me was not moving on the under with you in the Patriots-Steelers game. Watching that game, I was sitting there, and I kept thinking, God, I'm right. But the under was so right as well. I really could have had a nice double-up spot, and great call by you. Let's go through the line history here in this Ravens-Patriots spot. We have it opening up at +3, but at that point, the Patriots were -115. So it's been an 8-cent move to the Ravens. From a total perspective, opened up at 43.5 and is now at 43, although it did drop to 42.5. So it's come back up. Let's take a look at the cash and see if any of that correlates here. And here we go. 10,680 tickets in. 10% of the tickets on the Patriots, but 21% of the cash. I'm very comfortable being on the side with that going on, although I don't like the 8-cent move towards the Ravens. It means there is some concern. And then 55% of the tickets, 68% of the cash on the over. And I think that might be the right look. Can I go back to that? Sorry, one more time. That's 55% tickets, 68% cash on the over. Ravens coming off the shocking 42-38 loss at home to the Dolphins. Lamar Jackson was excellent. 21-29, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Also ran 9 times for 119 yards, including a 79-yard TD run. That's his 11th 100-yard rushing game. That's his NFL record. Mike Vick had 10. Jackson also became the first quarterback in NFL history with both a touchdown pass and a touchdown run of at least 75 yards in the same game. Rashard Bateman, 4 receptions for 108 yards and a touchdown. Mark Andrews stepped up, 9 catches, 104 yards and a touchdown. Duvernay returned the opening kickoff, 103 yards for a touchdown. But, and it's a major but, their defense looked awful in the second half. Marcus Williams had his 2 picks in the first half. The secondary was just consistently beaten over the top in the second half. And maybe it's because Waddle and Tyreek are the fastest wide receivers in the league. Or maybe the Ravens have real issues in their secondary with aging players coming off injuries. Dolphins had 233 yards of offense in the fourth quarter and 547 in the game. Tua threw for 469 yards, 4 passing TDs in the fourth quarter alone. Marcus Peters was in his first game back after missing all of last season with a knee injury. Cornerback Marlon Humphrey played after dealing with a groin injury. The Ravens got 1 sack and 2 quarterback hits. The linebacker Steven Means was carted off the field with an ankle injury, and Duvernay entered concussion protocol. J.K. Dobbins is now week to week, says John Harbaugh. So he was a full participant in the Ravens practices last Wednesday through Friday, but they're in no hurry to rush him back, ACL and LCL injury. Patriots followed up that listless week 1 loss in Miami by defeating the Steelers 17-14 in Pittsburgh. They've not started 0-20 in 20 years. Mac Jones 21-35 for 252 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. His offensive line was excellent. He wasn't sacked. He was only hit 3 times. Aguilar had 6 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown. Jacoby Myers 9 for 95. Damian Harris ran 15 times for 71 and a touchdown. Caught 2 passes for 16. Now, Mac Jones can't push the ball downfield like Tua did. And it's not because I think Mac Jones is incapable. It's because he doesn't have Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Their defense was excellent. 3 sacks on Trubisky, held the Steelers to 243 yards of total offense. So after Miami put up 42 points on the Ravens in Baltimore, allowing just 20 points to them in Miami, the Patriots allowing just 20 points in Miami in week 1 is starting to look a little better. Take it away. I can't wait to hear your breakdown. I want to have action on this game. Ravens, Patriots.
Yeah, a couple of good defenses. And a big reason I bet Miami last week was because of the secondary injuries. That's something to monitor this week. I tend to lean towards the Ravens just because the only thing I've seen, take care of these Ravens when we was the Jets game. I don't know if I can really count the Jets game, although the Jets won last week. What are you going to do? But it was hard to evaluate that Jets game. It felt like that one was just in hand immediately. But what beat this team was a big-armed quarterback going over the top to a speedy receiver. And it's funny, like Waddle would be the fastest receiver on 30 other teams. Honestly, maybe not Baltimore. Duvernay's crazy fast. But yeah, Baltimore has some fast receivers. I'd shit on these receivers during the preseason, but if they can get them into the fold and Lamar Jackson is willing to be a runner like he has been and not worried about his contract situation, it's a scary offense. New England will be a big challenge for them defensively. One of the best, and on the road, you're facing a good defense on the road. I just don't know what the hell to make of this New England offense. Like even them getting to the, what was it, 17? Where did we end up with the final score for New England last week? End up 17-14?
Yeah.
Like the one was a real short drive off a muff punt. The other one was just, honestly, I don't want to call it lucky because it was a decent throw, but that throw to Aguilar, they essentially had one nice play on offense and got a really short field. I don't believe in this New England offense whatsoever. I've seen somebody mention the New England team total under. That's sitting at 20.5. That's probably a good play. And yeah, I'm gonna wait for injury news on the Baltimore secondary. If the secondary can get anything put back there to cover Aguilar, yeah, there's not much. There's not much to cover. It's certainly not what they had to cover last week. But Ravens in a bounce back here. Just need some positive injury news on that in that defensive secondary.
And you might not get it.
Yeah, it might be a pass. Yeah,
you might not get it. I know that the Patriots don't have a good offense, but I don't know. I'd like to see them at home. I don't trust Judge and Patricia at all, but I would like to see them at home. I think they're in this football game. What do you think of this total? This total right now, 54% of tickets, 68% of cash on the over, and we've seen it go from 43.5, it dropped down to 42.5, now back at 43.
Yeah, the total is a fair number because it's a tough defense that Baltimore will be going up against. A couple tough defense, and really, even if we don't get a fully healthy Baltimore defense, it's just been such an anemic offense. New England had 4-5 drives that were, under 20 yards. They had a couple of 3-and-outs, a 3 and I think a third down interception early on, traded interceptions early. Like I said, their one touchdown drive was a 10-yard drive off a muff punt. The offense had a couple of field goal drives. I believe they missed one as well. Just, it wasn't an inspiring offense versus a defense that was missing the defensive player of the year from last year. And we've all, everyone kind of predicted to regress a little based on just they can't continue to play at that level, especially with some of these guys aging out. So I'm really, really tough. It's a tough sell for me. What does New England need to get to cover this 3? How many points? They probably need to get to their team total. They need to get near 20, and it's just hard for me to get them near 20 without something like that, where they catch a lucky break on a muff punt or a long bomb that defender was in a decent spot. That's a 50-50 ball. So I'm out on the Patriots so far. They were not lucky to win that game. So just like they had that short drive that they were lucky to score on, I wasn't impressed with anything that Pittsburgh did for their scoring drives as well. They essentially had the one good drive, and I think they punted in their last 2 or 3 drives as well. It's an under team. That's why this total is low. Totals have been a little lower this week. So if the Ravens get 24-27, I don't see how New England covers this. So I'm waiting for injury news. Leaning Ravens. Think the total's fine. Probably staying off this one for now.
Let's move on. 1 p.m. Eastern. Cincinnati Bengals 0-2, 0-1 on the road at New York Jets 1-1, 0-1 at home. MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. 72 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. And is it time to panic for the Super Bowl finalist Cincinnati Bengals? The Bengals are the first defending AFC champion to start 0-2 since 1999. And that doesn't really count because Denver was coming off back-to-back Super Bowl wins and started 0-4 after Elway retired. Let's take a look at the line history here in this one. We have the Bengals opening up at -4. Now they're -4.5. From a totals perspective, it opened up at 43. It's gone all the way up to 45.5. So a big jump there. Let's take a look at the cash flow in this one. 9,974 tickets in. 87% of the tickets and 92% of the cash on the Bengals bouncing back. 66% of the tickets and 63% of the cash on the over. They come in off that 2017 loss at Dallas to the Cooper Rush-led Cowboys. Big shout-out to our birdie who was heavy on the Cowboys. Joe Burrow did not look good. He finished 24-36 for 199 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He's just not getting any protection at all from this revamped offensive line. The Cowboys sacked Burrow 6 times in the first 3 quarters. He was sacked 7 times in the opener against the Steelers. He was sacked 51 times last season. The Bengals put tons of energy into their offensive line in the offseason, overhaul it, and he's on pace to be sacked 111 times this year. T. Higgins caught 6 passes for 71 yards. Jamar Chase 5 for 54. Joe Mixon 19 carries for 57 and 3 catches for 26. Sam Hubbard had the lone sack. They got 5 hits on Cooper. Tight end Drew Sample ruled out with a right knee injury. He got hurt in the second quarter. T. Higgins is in concussion protocol. And Cincinnati has lost 10 of its past 11 road games against the Jets. Jets come in off a wild 31-30 comeback victory at Cleveland on Sunday to snap their 13-game losing streak in September. We talked already about 2,229 consecutive games that the team leading by at least 13 points in the final 2 minutes has won, and that came to an end. Joe Flacco, 26 of 44, 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He's 18-3 now against the Browns. Rookie Garrett Wilson, 8 catches for 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of those was a game-winning TD with 22 seconds left. Corey Davis, 2 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. Breece Hall, 7 carries for 50 yards, caught 1 pass for 10-yard TD. And Ashton Davis had the game-clinching interception, and the Jets had 1 sack and 5 quarterback hits on Jacoby Brissett. And Greg Zuerlein, 57-yard field goal left to tie it. The kick matched the longest in franchise history, and Zuerlein is a good kicker. This is an interesting spot. Take it away. I'm going to be right back, so you're going to have full screen here for a second. I got to take care of something quickly, but take it away, Bengals, Jets.
Yeah, look at this, full screen Andy. No big deal. Hey, guys, in the chat. I'll do what Jimmy did. Fanatical Jim, Joe Chris, Jared, TG, Harold Williams, Gerald Jones. I am going to bet the Cincinnati Bengals here, and it doesn't feel good, but it is still a very good offense with a ton of good weapons. And the biggest problem has been facing a couple of really good pass rushes, a couple of good pass rushers, a couple of good pass rushing schemes. That said, if you go look at pass rush win rate for defensive lines, the Jets are 30th in the league. Not completely devoid of talent on the defensive side, but they are not going to pose the threat that we saw from the Micah Parsons of the world. They don't have a Micah Parsons. Nobody has a Micah Parsons. So it's just not going to be the issues we saw. And a lot of it isn't even the offensive line. Joe Burrow is running into sacks. Sacks are a quarterback stat for the most part. He is causing as much problems as that offensive line in front of him. That said, I just don't think the Jets are going to be anywhere near the pressure rate we're seeing from the first 2 opponents. You got hurt, but you faced maybe two of the best pass rushers in the damn league in 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, you're going to be on pace for 100 sacks. That sort of thing happens. It's the Jets this week, coming off a bounce back or coming off a crazy win with a quarterback who hasn't done shit for 4 years. I just don't see a repeat performance from Flacco. It's such a nasty spot to take a road favorite here, but I have to rely on my priors on this. And I wasn't a big Bengals guy last year, but where I have their offense ranked is still just so much higher. And Bengals team total over. It's not a spot I enjoy taking, but I make this a lot closer to 7 than 5. So it's just protect Burrow, let him make plays to playmakers, and watch the Jets crumble here. It's a nasty game. If the Bengals don't cover and win, I guess such is life. But man, they need a win here. They need to get their shit right because it's a division they can still compete in. Nobody's running away with this division right now, guys. They can still win this division, get into the playoffs. Just have to get a few things right. And that is, if Burrow isn't pressured repeatedly and he's comfortable, he's going to make the throws. We're not going to see the turnovers on turnovers like we saw in week 1. We're not going to see all the sacks from the first 2 weeks. And what am I getting here at? I'm just betting everything at Chris because I have that up 4.5 minus 15. So I can get a 5 minus 12. What's that? I might just sell this to 6. Let's get weird with it. But yeah, I'm gonna go find the best number I can on the Bengals.
Let me see if I can help here as well. Let me pull up what Pinnacle will offer you that 6. You can get a 4.5 at minus 108, but if you want to,
yeah, I'll take that.
You'll take that. Let's just see
what a little site called Lovig.ag has.
Yeah, I would like to see what we could get you at the 6. I'm curious about this move. Here we are. If I cheat it to 6 plus 106, so minus 108, 4.5 seems to make sense there. All right, Andy is on the board with the Bengals minus 4.5 at minus 108. I agree with this. I agree with this take. I agree with this look. I agree with all of this here. I
think the Bengals defense is just a non-factor in the outcome of this game and the spread, as the Bengals just pour one on here. Bengals get to like 35 and we don't really worry about it. Although teams have been known to put 30 points up on the Jets and lose, apparently. Just doesn't feel terribly repeatable, guys. So
yeah. I agree with this look. 87% of tickets, 92% of cash on the Bengals right now. Feels like a buy low spot. Bengals minus 4.5 for Andy, and I'll also look at the team total over. It's at 26.5. And Nutflush Allen says feels like a Burrow huge game. Cincinnati breaks 30 points. All right, there you go. Let's keep rolling. Next up, 1 p.m. Eastern. Philadelphia Eagles, 2-0, 1-0 on the road at the Washington Commanders, 1-1, 1-0 home at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland, 77 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 9 miles per hour. We'll start with the line history in this spot here. Eagles, Commanders. We have the Eagles opening up at Pinnacle minus 5.5. Now they're minus 6.5. From a totals perspective, it opened up at 50 and has dropped all the way down to 47, a 3-point drop on the total. See if the cash correlates with all of that here. They are giving the Eagles 25% line value at Sports Insights. And this will change as the week goes on and numbers go on, but that's the biggest that they've given anybody so far this week. 5,964 tickets in, 44% of tickets, 69% of the cash on the Eagles. Then it's 50-50 on the total, but 79% of the cash is on the under on a 50-50 spot. Eagles come in flying high after their 24-7 win at home versus the Vikings on Monday night. Now they head to Washington on a short week to face old friend Carson Wentz. This is the first time Carson Wentz will play against his former team. Against the Vikes, Jalen Hurts was excellent. 26-31, 333 yards, a touchdown, a pick, ran 11 times for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns, 301 total yards in the first half. Goddard caught 5 passes for 82 yards. Devonta caught 7 for 80. A.J. Brown, 5 for 69. Quez Watkins, 2 for 69 and touchdown. They just have weapons. Miles Sanders, 17 carries for 80 yards. The defense had 2 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, and Darius Slay, big play Slay, held Justin Jefferson to 6 catches for 48 yards and picked off Cousins twice. Avonte Maddox also had an interception. Commanders coming off that 36-27 loss to Detroit. They were shut out 22-0 in the first half. Didn't get a first down in their first 6 possessions. Carson Wentz, 30 of 46, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. First quarterback since at least 1950 to throw for 300-plus yards and at least 3 touchdown passes in his first 2 starts on a new team. His stats are so wild always. They're so extreme, and they're horrifying if you have action on them. Curtis Samuel caught 7 passes for 70 yards and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin, 4 catches for 75 yards. Defense put up 3 sacks, 11 quarterback hits. Cam Curl, starting safety, and starting guard Wes Schweitzer were inactive. Washington is in the top 10 in points and yards per game and points, yards per play. It's their defense that's a huge problem. 30th in opponents' yards per play, 32nd in opponents' yards per rush, 27th in points per game allowed. A situation the Philadelphia Eagles could feast on. Take it away for us, Andy. Philadelphia, Washington.
Yeah, it's a lot of points to lay on the road. So you'd say, well, it's probably Washington or nothing, which is that's nothing. I mean, it's not a spot I want to back Wentz. Although Wentz has been okay. We've seen some bright spots. He still winces sometimes, does some stuff, but laying this many points on the road in a divisional game is usually a recipe for disaster. That said, the Washington defense has been bad enough that I think I'm fine with laying an Eagles team total here. You know, anything under maybe that's just a look for an over, because I think Washington will score a little, will push them, will have them keep them score. I don't know if you get this under steam, and I get it. The Philadelphia Eagles stopped what was looking like an okay offense, but I don't know. I don't know how I'm making a case for Washington scoring more than Minnesota on them, but it felt like, you know, that Slay thing. You're not going to have that every week. You're not going to have Cousins just bungling it. It's crazy that I'm saying Carson Wentz is going to play better than Kirk Cousins. But boy, this is a big correction out to 7. I want to take the Eagles. I'm just looking for a way to do it, and it's certainly not laying this many points on the road. So it's a really tricky game to get into. I'm not interested in betting this one. I think the Washington front will stymie Hurts a little more. It is a short week for Philly, heading to not only a divisional opponent, but a divisional opponent on a horrible field. Like probably just a hard pass and hope everyone stays healthy. Yeah. Otherwise, small look at Eagles team total if you can get like a 27.
Wow. This move from 50 to 47, and Noli knows he's a man that's made unders great again. He's being called the Jedi Master of unders, says thinking over, which is something we never, ever hear from him. The Donut Silks agreeing that team total at 27.5 is what Andrew G's looking at for the Eagles. Wow. And then Sky Dragon says the look ahead on this game was Philly -3. Amazing what one game on primetime will do. Eagles Super Bowl says, give me Washington on the spread and perhaps the money line. Wow.
The second one's a tough ask, but divisional games happens all the time. Great teams who the Bills deserved to win the Super Bowl last year, and they went and lost to the Jaguars. Any given Sunday, guys, these games are always closer than it looks.
And then
Eagles first half.
What do you think of the Commanders team total? Now that it's dropped and they're 6.5-point dogs, I mean, now you're getting them. They're offering it to me at 19.5.
I know this may just. God, I need to look at one more. The Eagles' defense is not as good as what we saw. A lot of that was just Minnesota move. How many times did Minnesota throw an interception after driving the field, after getting to the red zone? Minnesota had 4 red zone possessions, I believe. They were 1 for 4. But I don't think this Philly defense is as good as maybe it was made out to be. Slay actually got hurt late, I believe. Boy, yeah. Fuck it. I'm taking it over 47. Put it on the books. I'm betting this. I'm going to go look for the best price on this. I don't see them holding them. It's 47.5 at Chris. If I can find a flat 47, that's probably a move for me. It's an over adjustment at this point. Look at this. Over 47, 105 at it.
Let's lock it in for you.
See that? I'm actually betting live on the show.
47 at minus 105. I have interest in the Commanders team total over.
Yeah, you just get to 20, even if it's garbage time, guys.
I really do. I really do. I really think.
I think Washington and the over are correlated. I don't see them stopping Philly repeatedly. Washington will need to score to cover. It's not going to be some low scoring, swatted out, Cleveland Pittsburgh kind of game.
I think I move on this as soon as possible. I think the fact that it's dropped 3 points and the Eagles are 3 points bigger favorites than they were. Well, now you're getting a really nice price on this team total over. So yeah, I think I'm moving on this. I think I'll move on this tonight. I don't think I'll get a better number than this. And Pinnacle has it at 21.5, but it's minus 144 to the under. I think this is capping the cappers, capping Andy, capping the cappers in the chat. Let's go over where the cash is again on this one here. In the divisional game, you got a road team that just looks spectacular on a standalone game. These are the spots that we want to fade. Now, the public is on Washington at 56% of tickets, but I don't care anymore because Andy cashes his over and I'll cash my team total over, and who cares, All right, I like it. I'm excited. We move on. 1 p.m. Eastern, New Orleans Saints 1-1, 1-0 on the road to the Carolina Panthers, 0-2, 0-1 at home. Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. 80 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 10 miles per hour. Don Max says Bovada, it's 21.5 at plus 115. I don't want to have to get over 20 or 21, personally. Yeah, always says bet your number. Yeah, no, I agree, Don Mac. Yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm with you.
Shop around. I believe it's called Bodog for you Canadians, Jimmy.
Yeah. It is Bodog.
You're an adopted American at this point.
Okay, let's move on. Saints, Panthers. Saints are 1-1, 1-0 on the road at the Panthers, 0-2, 0-1 at home. Bank of America Stadium, Charlotte, North Carolina. 80 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 10 miles per hour. Thank you guys so much for hanging with us on Gridiron Gamblers. We've gotten off to such a great start. It's very exciting times. It's very, very, very exciting times. Let's go to the line history in this one. Saints, Panthers. And we have the Saints opening up minus 2.5. They're now minus 3. It got up to plus 104. It's now plus 101. So I'm sure there are 2.5s, probably still 2.5s available. This total opened up at 40.5. There's been a 3-cent move to the over, but it's stuck at 40.5 over at Pinnacle. Let's take a look at the cash flow on this one. Saints, Panthers. We have 4,804 tickets in, 58% of the tickets, 70% of the cash on the Carolina Panthers. Surprising. Then 47% of tickets and 93% of cash on the under. Very surprising. It's moved 3 cents in the opposite direction of the total, and there has been a move towards the Saints. So this is confusing. Let's try to shed some light on it. Saints coming in off that emotional 20-10 loss at home to the Saints in the game that was 3-3 going into the fourth. Jameis Winston, 25 of 40, 236 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. All 3 interceptions came in the fourth quarter. And he's being limited in practice by a back injury. You'll read some articles that make it sound the back injury is really bad. And then some that are just, he's going to be able to play through it. The offense clearly missed. Alvin Kamara held out due to a rib injury. Chris Olave, though, 5 catches for 80 yards. Michael Thomas, 6 for 65 and touchdown. Mark Ingram, 10 carries for 60 yards. Interestingly enough, Mark Ingram was not RB1 in this game. He did not take the most snaps as RB1, but when it came to actually carrying the ball, he caught more carries than anyone else. Their defense was strong, but couldn't get enough pressure on Brady, who was sacked once and hit 3 times. Tampa didn't score until Suckup hit a 47-yarder with 3:09 left in the third. The game changed drastically when Marshall Lattimore and Mike Evans. Well, first off, Paulson Adebo sitting out with an ankle injury. So then you have Lattimore's ejection. And then the Saints are without their top 2 cornerbacks. and Brady took advantage. I wish we were all watching the game live together because it would be instantaneous bet. Now, I already had money on the Bucs, so I didn't need to do anything. But if we were watching, it was just immediately take Brady. The very next series, he marches the Bucs down all the way and hits Perriman in the end zone to make it 10-3. So Panthers look to avoid their – we'll get to that when we talk about the Bucs because Mike Evans is suspended for a game. Panthers look to avoid their first 0-3 start since 2010. Coming off a 1916 loss to the Giants. The Sharps were on the Panthers. It made no sense to me. I was afraid to bet the Giants, but I took them in the Cappers contest, so that was one of my top 5 sides, and I was still afraid to bet it because I don't want to go up against the Sharps. Why would I bother going up?
And I think you probably had the wrong side there. Panthers, that was an ugly ending. The whole second half of that game was ugly. I'm not sure who deserved to win that one, and it might not have been the team that won there. That said, they're both pretty horrendous teams.
They are. And Sky Dragon says, this is my 0-2 team coming home trying to save their season spot. Says, give me Carolina. Nola showed up at home for Tampa Bay. I don't think they're that good. Should not be 3-point road chalk. Interesting. The question is, Sky Dragon, you're going to have to sit there with money on Matt Rule. He's now 10 wins, 25 losses as Carolina's coach. They've lost 9 straight games. That's the longest active skid in the NFL. Baker, 14-29 for 145 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He also ran 6 times for 35 yards. I think, Andy, there's so much truth in what you're saying, but Daboll's a winner, and Matt Rule is a fucking loser.
He is. There might be a correlated parlay first coach fired Saints money line. I don't think there's a book on earth that's going to let you parlay those, but Rule should be minus 200 at this point, man. If they lose this, and I think they do, there's been too many road favorites. I did it with Tampa Bay. I took Tampa Bay -3, got a bad number. They still looked decent. The Lattimore ejection, you can say that helped, but they lost Evans as well. Tampa was the better team. Tampa has the best defense in the league, and there might be a decent gap between 1 and 2. They did lose a piece to a foot injury. We'll get to Tampa when we get to them, but that was a big part of that game. Was this Tampa Bay defense is legendary at this point. They really, really, really looked good, and Saints did what they could, but that was a really, really big ask for them. The fact that their defense played as well as they did, holding this Tampa Bay offense. And yes, I know they had some pieces missing, but I was surprised that they played that well. I think I gave the Saints defense a little bit of an upgrade. And if Kamara plays, I make this line closer to 5. And most of it is just because I have Carolina so low in my power rankings. Getting a flat 3 here, it sounds like Kamara's trending in. It's not a rib break. It's a costal cartilage injury, which hurts. But if he's back, if everyone's looking good, you get another game with Winston working in with these receivers. Essentially, he's working with brand new receivers. Olave was a rookie, and we didn't even see your star receiver play last year. So, getting more work in with this offense, getting Kamara back, this team is markedly better. Again, another divisional game, another road favorite. I hate, but I'm close to pulling the trigger on the Saints. Haven't done it yet.
The Saints sitting at 3. I think the 3 stays available.
Yeah,
but I guess you're right. You think that if Kamara is announced in, it moves immediately.
Yeah, just kind of keep an eye on his practice reports on Wednesday. I think that maybe there'll be a move if he's looking good, if he's a full participant. And yeah, Carolina has not really, played much. Or last week, I can't like give them credit for anything they did. That was a bad team. They didn't play a tough ass defense like New Orleans did. New Orleans, if Tampa Bay's healthy, and I know we just gave the Eagles a lot of love, but Tampa Bay gets all their receivers healthy and that defense stays together, they're very, very good. Very dangerous team. That was a tough game for the Saints. I'm glad we cashed on Tampa, but leaning Saints, haven't bet this, probably won't quite yet.
What do you think of McCaffrey? Is he back? 15 carries for 102 yards, caught 4 passes for 26 yards.
Yeah, he's your bright spot, and that's what I'm saying. I think the Saints' rush defense can do a little against him. That's kind of your assignment. I'd focus on him and try to make Baker beat you deep. But you have some good receivers there, but make Baker beat you deep along the outsides. That's my game plan there. Try to take McCaffrey away. And if you can do that, I think you'd be very successful and win this game by about 10. So, yeah, and Birdie's pointing out the Saints O-line still having some problems. It's I don't know how I feel about, and a couple of people pointing out Dennis. I don't know how I feel about Dennis Allen either. That's another reason that's keeping me off this one. But my numbers make this closer to 5, which is I want to bet it, just can't do it quite yet.
I love it. It's a fascinating spot. What are your feelings on the total? I know we got to speed this up a bit, but it's moved 3 cents to the over, and
that's probably about right.
At 40.5,
yeah,
because we have 93% of tickets on the under.
I think the Saints defense is very good, and if they do run the right game plan, it'll be a lower scoring game where they probably can take their foot off the gas pedal. 40 is a pretty good number.
All right, let's roll on. Jacksonville Jaguars, Los Angeles Chargers. We get into afternoon football here. We've finished the 1 p.m. slate. How's that possible? Pinnacle's not going to give me line history on this, so we've talked about BetChris. BetChris is not either. What the hell? Okay, we'll use Bet365. Bet365 opened this last Tuesday. So they're letting you bet a week before. They opened it up with Jacksonville look ahead at +9 after Jacksonville's shutout and the injury to Herbert, although we expect them in. It's moved to 7. So that's where it stands right now. It's at 7. From a totals perspective, it opened up at 50.5 and has dropped to 48. But once the games were played, it went down to 48.5. So it's really gone down from 48.5 to 48, unless you're thinking about the look-ahead spot. Let's take a look at the cash here in Jaguars Chargers. 6,582 tickets in. 46% of the tickets and 92% of the cash on Jacksonville. Wow. 66% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on the under. The Jaguars come riding high after their 24-0 win at home over the Colts. It's funny, Jacksonville 6 wins and 30 losses over their last 36 games. 4 of those wins came against the Colts. Trevor Lawrence, 25 to 30, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Christian Kirk, 6 catches for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. James Robinson, 23 carries for 64 yards and 1 touchdown. Feels like he's fully back from the torn Achilles tendon last December. Their defense swarmed Ryan all night. They sacked him 5 times. They hit him 11 times. They intercepted 3 of his passes, and they held reigning NFL rushing champion Jonathan Taylor to 54 yards. Rayshon Jenkins, safety, rookie linebacker Devin Lloyd, and Andre Sisco picked off Ryan. Josh Allen had 2 of the 5 sacks, also forced a fumble. And do we put stock into the stats of, the Patriots under Belichick, even though they don't have Brady anymore? Or do we put stock in the Jacksonville stats over the last 2 years? Are they a different football team now?
It's for sure.
Because they've lost 15 of 18 games in the Pacific time zone. I'll talk about the Chargers next, but jump in. Talk about the Jags. Do you agree with all of this love for Jacksonville, as right now 92% of the cash is on them?
They played the Colts without their best player. So on defense, it's our guy Lawrence. He was very efficient. He was 25 of 30, but they're using Kirk out of the slot. Perfect place to use him. You paid him a shitload. Use him where you're supposed to use him. He's been great. It's just a much, much, much better defense you're going to be facing. It's a healthy defense. It's a really high-end secondary. I don't think the Jaguars are going to be able to do nearly as much. And yes, this pass rush is filthy. The Chargers should have won last week. They didn't. Nice bounce back spot. Good teaser leg. I don't know what to make of the Jaguars. I've been high on them. I have a Jaguars Super Bowl ticket because it was a hilarious big number, and I wanted to have a little bit on that, have a ticket if they were getting squirrely at the end of the year. But I'd like to fade Jacksonville off that win, but it's not like they overperformed. They just played a good game, and Indy just didn't offer anything. And again, missing Shaq Leonard, Darius Leonard, whatever you want to call them. Chargers should be a nice bounce back spot. Long rest. So if I had to bet it, I'd bet the 7, but guessing this is going to drop into a teaser for me on Sunday morning once I know Justin Herbert is fully healthy and ready to rock, as he has the same cartilage injury as Kamara.
Yeah, and let's talk about that injury here. Sky Dragon says, I want to fade Jacksonville off a win. I want to back the Chargers off a loss. That said, don't love this number. I do have futures on the Chargers division conference and Super Bowl, so that pick 6 upset me. And Staley keeping Herbert in upset me. But the Chargers are on extra rest and prep time after losing 27-24 the Chiefs on Thursday, seemingly in control before the Jalen Watson interception. Gerald Everett, I blame him. But you could have also – everybody saw how exhausted Everett was.
He needed to get off the field at that point.
Who goes back to him? I mean, it was just – I couldn't believe it. It was just it was bad coaching. So Herbert, though, 33-48, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the interception. Then he suffers fractured rib cartilage. So I found the comparison to a quarterback who also tore his rib cartilage and played through it the entire season. You have to go back to 2014, and it's Tony Romo. And it was the best season of his career. So feels like he's going to be able to play through this, and everything should be okay. It's easier said than done. Mike Williams, 8 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown. Everett, 6 passes for 71 yards. I do blame him for the interception. Austin Eckler, 14 carries for 39 yards, caught 9 passes for 55 yards. This defense, as you said, is strong, man. We know what Derwin James can do and J.C. Jackson, but Asante Samuel Jr., good God, he was so good. The Chiefs had 13 yards of offense in the first quarter. The pass rush got just 1 sack and 5 quarterback hits, but they look more dangerous than the numbers give them credit for. Corey Linsley, knee. Their center right tackle, Trey Pipkins, ankle left in the third quarter. We need an update from them. Take it away here. We talked the Jags and we touched on the Chargers. Do you feel like I completely understand the situation that Skydragon finds himself in? Want to fade Jacksonville off the win, want to back the Chargers off a loss. Are you going to be able to get to the window?
Yeah, I'm awful close. I just want to hear a good Wednesday report on Justin Herbert. Because essentially, this defense held the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City to 20 points. They played very admirably. And I don't know, we had a good week against a Darius Leonard-less Colts defense. And that Colts team is just maybe a little bit messy right now. It's just such a big step up in class for Trevor Lawrence heading out to the West Coast, East Coast team heading out. I get it's a later game, so it's not as bad as traveling the other way, but a big travel spot, big step up. Like, how many points do I really think the Jaguars are going to score on the road versus a big step up in defense if they were able to hold the Chiefs to 20? Jaguars team total unders, maybe a look here, but the Chargers in the teaser, kind of some looks, and yeah, it might be an under. It might be one of those where Chargers, just win like 28-5. That's a funny score. I don't know. Sometimes I just throw numbers that make no sense for football scores out there. But I have to clip that if that actually happens, if they give up some weird safety at the end. But, 28-7, 28-10, something like that. So it might be a easy cover with the under as well, too.
Yeah, it's not on the board right now at Pinnacle, as we talked about off the top. The total is down to 48 at Bet365. The team total for the Jags is 19.5. Jaguars.
Essentially what the Kansas City Chiefs scored. They got to 20 with their offense. It took an interception return to get them to the 27.
I'm certain Herbert's going to be in, but we might have to clip that if something goes fucking wrong.
Yeah, and I want him to look good too. If he's looking, real ginger, and sometimes you don't always get clips of practice. But yeah, waiting on that one. I want to see. Wait till Wednesday.
Jaguars team total under 19.5. I find the most appealing situation here. I'm not going to bet it tonight. I agree with Andy that we need to wait and hear what's going on. All right, let's move on. 4:25 p.m. Eastern, LA Rams, Arizona Cardinals, State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The funeral for the Arizona Cardinals is not to be. What a big win for that squad. It did not look like it was going to happen after the first half. Let's take a look at the line history in this one. Rams, Cards. We have the Rams opening up at -4 at -106. They're now -4 at +107. So that 4 is now a 3.5. From a total standpoint, it opened up at 51 and is now at 49. I would like to see if this cash flow is on, if there's some opposite shit going on right now, because I would love to bet the Rams, but I can't. 58% of the tickets, 79% of cash. It's on Arizona. So the market moving towards where the bigger bets are coming in. 51% of tickets, 81% of the cash on the under. I still think it's buy low time for the Rams, but I guess the sharps are saying the Rams just aren't that good of a football team. Rams come in off a 31-27 home win over the Falcons. Sorry. Fuck. That was much closer than it had to be. Rams were up 28-3 in the third quarter. Stafford, 27-36, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Completed his first 12 passes. Cooper Kupp, 11 catches, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a costly late fumble. Higbee, 7 catches for 71 yards. Allen Robinson, much better. Much better in his second game with the new team. Caught 4 passes for 53 yards and a touchdown. The Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, 1-2 punch work. 10 carries for 47 yards and a touchdown for Henderson. 15 carries for 44 yards for Akers. The defense got 3 sacks and 6 quarterback hits. Kobe Durant had a pick, and Jalen Ramsey had the game-saving interception. Right guard Trayvon Ankrum suffered an ankle injury on the opening series. He did not return. Cornerback Troy Hill was also injured in the first half. He's questionable. The Rams have converted on 52.17% of their third down attempts. That's 5th in the NFL. Now, they played the Bills and the Falcons. The Cardinals are dead last, covering only 24% of their third down attempts. I wish there was sharp money on the Rams. I would bet them, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to go up against the Sharps. Cardinals coming off a 29-23 overtime victory at Vegas, down 20-0 at the half, 23-7 with 9 minutes left. Kyler Murray led 2 TD drives, completed with 2-point conversions. They had 53 yards passing. He had 53 yards passing and an interception in the first half. Won the game on the Byron Murphy 59-yard return off the Hunter Renfrow fumble. Kyler Murray, 31-49 for 277 yards and a touchdown and a pick. Ran 5 times for 28 yards and a touchdown. Zach Ertz, big game, 8 catches, 75 yards. Marquise Brown, 6 catches, 68 yards. Greg Dort, 4 catches, 55 yards. Dylan Williams, 8 carries for 59 yards and a touchdown. James Conner has an ankle injury. So it happened on the first run in the second half. He finished 25 yards, 7 carries. J.J. Watt got their lone sack. This defense is allowing 6.4 yards per play and 7.7 yards per pass attempt. I don't want to bet them here, but I don't want to go up against the Sharps. Take it away for us, Andy. Rams, Cardinals.
Yeah, the ideal outcome was for Kyler Murray to not convert anything in the fourth quarter, them lose by a couple touchdowns, and us get a much better number on Arizona at home here. I would love to have bet Arizona at a bigger number. Instead, they get that comeback. They crush my under at overtime. And really, it took, they got 8 plays from like the inside the 5 on that one drive with the penalty. It took them a lot. It took so many coin flips going right for them to cover the game, to win the game, to get that over. They're not a good team. And then I go to the Rams and I saw them lose badly to the best team in football. And then I saw them come back and play very good against one of the worst teams in football, and then somehow let them get right back into the game. And some of it was turnovers. And we saw Kupp with a bad turnover. We saw some interceptions, but I can't make heads or tails of this Rams team right now. That said, the Cardinals, it is a much tougher defensive test they're going to be up against here, although it's at home. I made a joke last year about doing this just in the NFC West, just taking the dog every time. I think there was a certain early in the season, it was like the dog was straight up winner, like 4 out of the first 6 games or something silly. I can't go to the window for Arizona at this price, even at home. I'm passing hard on this game.
I want the Rams, but I have to stick with what's working. So I will not bet them. But Birdie says Cardinals at home, stinky. Cardinals on the road, not stinky. Isn't it that simple? Rams first half.
It's weird.
Fanatical Jim says McVay 5-1-1 against the spread against Kingsbury. Arizona 0-6 against the spread last 6 home games. And Papa Kyle says good number play at Arizona 4-4.5 only. Sky Dragon says the Rams have handled Russ and Kyler-led offenses. Rams have a lead. McVay is conservative. Under is the play.
Yeah, I like that. If you get a Rams lead, a second half under, you might even see some steam to that over as people bet like, oh, Kyler Murray in comeback mode. I'm going to bet the second half over, and you get some steam at halftime. You might get a good price on that second half under if the Rams are leading.
Papa Kyle's, I won't take the Rams at 3. I will not go up against sharp money. There's enough spots for me to bet. I don't need to reach, and I don't need to be smarter than that.
I may not bet any of these NFC West games all year. Just keep them away from me.
All right, that is Rams Cardinals. We'll move on. 4:25 p.m. Eastern. The Atlanta Falcons 0-2, 0-1 on the road. Seattle Seahawks 1-1, 1-0 at home. We're at State Farm Stadium. Oh, we're not at State Farm Stadium. My bad. I don't know why I have
Lumen
that.
Field.
Yeah, I know.
Beautiful Pacific Northwest.
I'm from the Northwest. I should be able to. I know, my bad. Sorry. But the weather is nice. It's nice in Seattle. Still 69 Fahrenheit, mostly sunny, 8 miles per hour. Let's take a look at the line history here in this one. Seahawks, Falcons. We have the Seahawks opening up at -2.5. That's dropped to -1. From a total standpoint, it opened up at 42.5 and has dropped to 41.5. Oh, I'm hoping that there's sharp money on Atlanta. That sharp money on Seattle. That's not the case. It's all over Atlanta. 54% of the tickets, 90% of the cash. That's why it's moved from 2.5 to 1. It's too bad. I kind of like a buy low spot on Seattle this week, but again, I just won't fight that fight. 70% of the tickets, 77% of cash on the under. Maybe that's where I can move to. The Falcons almost pulled off an enormous comeback in their 31-27 loss of the Rams, down 28-3 in the third. Mariota 17-26, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. 8th overall pick, Drake London at 8 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. Kadero Hodge, 2 catches for 57 yards. They struggled putting any kind of pressure on Stafford. 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits. Stafford completed his first 12 passes on them. But that's Stafford. Michael Walker, Casey Hayward had interceptions. Troy Anderson blocked a punt that Lorenzo Carter returned for a touchdown. 2-point conversion from Mariota to London. Wow. And that's also the first time since 1990 that the Falcons have blocked a punt in the regular season game, returned it for a TD. They did it also in the 2003 playoffs. Seahawks came crashing back to earth with their ugly 27-7 loss to San Francisco. I had the under. I should have had the 49ers too. I had him in the contest, in the Cappers contest, but who cares if you have him in the Cappers contest? I went 5-0 in the Cappers contest, but I should have bet them. It was exactly, the game worked out exactly the way I thought it would, except, of course, Trey Lance, being hurt out for the year with the ankle injury. Geno Smith, 24-30, 197 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Tyler Lockett, 9 catches for 107 yards. DK Metcalf, 4 for 35. They could do nothing on the ground. They're so screwed if they can't move the ball on the ground. 36 yards on 14 carries. They got on the board just because of their special teams. I mean, Tariq Woolen blocked a 20-yard field goal attempt by Robbie Gould. Michael Jackson, not the molester, picked up the ball, ran it 86 yards. Their defense, 1 sack and 4 quarterback hits. They lost defensive lineman Shelby Harris, first half injury to his glute. Guard Damian Lewis thigh also got hurt and didn't return. The Seattle Seahawks offense, 234.5 yards per game. That's 31st in the NFL. Brady says Seahawks have not scored an offensive point in the game and have not one single offensive point in a game and a half. Take it away for us, Andy. Falcons, Seahawks.
I looked at this right away on Sunday. I said, if I find out the Falcons traveled back to Atlanta, I'm going to pass. If I find out they stay on the West Coast, I'm going to bet them straight the fuck up. And we did honestly, it was just some media contacts immediately answered the questions that they were flying up to Seattle. Somebody actually did the research on the flights, did like the tail number flight stuff and found out they were flying up that way. But yeah, Atlanta stayed out west. Smart move. 2 straight games out on the West Coast. This usually works out. And they are not a good team. In fact, they're a bad team. One of the worst teams in the league, but they're better than Seattle, even on a neutral. I have Seattle very, very low because I can't get an offense much lower in my rankings than what we have with Seattle. They introduced another running back, and it made things worse. They have 2 really good wide receivers, and it's just completely going to go to waste with the kind of offense they want to run out there and the personnel they have. Atlanta's defense isn't that good. In fact, it's not great. It's not good at all, but I have Atlanta. It should be a small favorite here. When you bet this early, there's no money lines up. I wanted to bet a money line, but it was not offered. One book offered alternate spread, so it's funny. I bet a soccer number here, Jimmy. I bet because they wouldn't let me sell all the way to 0, but I could bet to plus 0.5. So I'm protected against the tie on my bet. If this ends in a tie, I am a winner because I don't have the money line. They wouldn't let me go that far, but essentially, yes, I'm on Falcons money line here. I have this should be a flip favorite. Falcons should be favored about 2.5 on the road, which is gross to say. I've seen some nice things from the offense. If they can keep getting Drake London the ball, and I think that's probably your rookie of the year, despite not getting the fanfare of Wilson up in the Jets. It's just from a pure standpoint of opportunities. If Drake London stays healthy, he's going to get 10 targets a game for the rest of his life here. and suddenly he's going to have 100 catches, and it's hard to argue with the counting stats if he keeps going. He's been good. If they get a little more out of the tight end and some of the other skill position players, maybe the running back by committee they've put together isn't too bad with Algier and Patterson and even their their quarterback. This offense isn't horrid if they're playing a bad defense. Obviously, the Rams only gave up 3 points in the first half to them because the Rams are a very good defense. This is not it. So Falcons, playing the 0-0 on the roulette wheel. And it is funny, I did live bet a Seattle-Arizona game years ago, and I sold down to a pick'em. I said, I'll just take the pick'em on the money line. And I fell asleep. That was the game where they missed 4 field goals in overtime, and I took a push. That was a tie. So I have taken a tie. So that's where we're protecting against it this one. But yeah, Gino's not great, guys. I'll bet against that here, even on the road with the team resting and practicing on the West Coast. I think they're out at the University of Washington.
Do you like the under as well?
Yeah. I think Atlanta could get 35, 40, 41 points, and this game still may stay under. There's a decent chance Seattle doesn't score on offense again. It's a much weaker defense than what we saw in San Francisco, but Seattle getting to 10, 14 points kind of seems like where we're going to end up with this team. It's a better team at home, but it's still a pretty bad team. I'm
going to move on the under. And I might add Seattle in the team total under 21.5. I feel like Gino is a good guy right now because he's not airing the ball out all over the field. Look, game in and game out, he's got this extremely high completion rate. He's keeping things simple. He's not putting his team in danger. And I think that was imperative when he got the number one job was, just let our defense handle things and let the great receivers that you have. I like the under and I like the team total under for Seattle. The question I have, though, is the Falcons defense good enough? We're banking on the Seattle offense being so bad, but is there any positives in this Falcon defense?
Middle of the pack as far as rush defense, which I think is going to be good enough here. They've struggled against passing, but they've faced much better quarterbacks than.
Why are you not adding either of those bets? Is it because you don't want to be too invested in this game?
What's that? The team total under? I hate voting. I hate double and triple dipping. I may look at that Seattle team total under though. Seattle and New England team total unders are high on my list. I kind of treat team totals separately, and I'll get to them later in the week if I start adding some of those. But yeah, I agree with you. Seattle team total under is high on my list.
I'm gonna move. I think I'm gonna double there. 41.5 team total under 21.5. I don't think that getting the opportunity to bet it at 21.5. I don't believe will be here come Sunday. I think that will be over below that 21 point threshold.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. Well, we've got action, baby. We've got action. Kind of tentative, but I was tentative last week. I ended up with 9 bets, but only 4 after our Tuesday night show. And I'm just going to keep doing what's working. And here I'm on the side of the Sharps because the Sharps are all over Atlanta, who I'm not moving on, but I get it. 54%, 90% of cash. And they're all over the under. And put that together, and I'm comfortable. Let's move on to a big one. 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Green Bay Packers 1-1. 1-1. 0-1 on the road at Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2-0. 0-0 at home at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. 85 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. There is showers earlier in the day, but they go away. But I'll keep an eye on that. We all should. Let's take a look at the line history here in this one. This is going to be a lot of fun. Rodgers, Brady. How many more opportunities are we going to get of this matchup? Bucks open up -2.5, -114. They're now -2.5 and +102. So that's a 16-cent move to the Packers. From a total standpoint, it opened up at I don't believe this. I guess I should believe it. Did it really drop this many points? It says that it opened up at 47.5.
They're soft openers. Not really. Like Sunday, you could bet a 45, and I did because that was still too high. But yeah, there were 48s before the games were played on Sunday. And I know people who bet some under 48s and said that's silly. I regret it. I'm just, right off the top, I made a bet that's long gone. I have an under 45 here from Sunday night. And again, it's just based on what I've said earlier about the Saints game. This Tampa Bay defense is sick as fuck right now. It is really put together well. And if they're going to be missing receivers and playing the offense, they're going to have to play while they wait for everybody to get healthy. And then I'm sure it took another little dip off the Evans suspension. And actually, you know what? The Packers have a very good defense as well. These are two of the better defenses in the NFC going at each other. Everyone wants to talk about these quarterbacks, but boy, it should be talking about some of the secondary pieces for Green Bay, Rashawn Gary, Vita Vea. There's so many good players on the defensive sides here. It might be a little too late. This is where you hope for a kickoff return right off the bat. Not me. I'd hate that. But from a live betting standpoint, that maybe gets you some sort of inflated live number. I don't know who to play on the side here either. Just I have no opinion. I think this number's perfect. I don't know. I want to hear what you think of these two teams so far.
59% of the tickets, 87% of the cash on the Packers. So 16-cent move at Pinnacle. That's a huge move at Pinnacle. And sharp action clearly on the Packers. 38% of the tickets, 74% of the cash on the other. So a lot of the public thinks that this is too low. Maybe there's been some sharp action for the middle. Could easily be in play.
If you have a 48 or something and there's a 41, it's not a bad middle.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Alfonso saying Tampa's allowed 13 points this season. Let's start with the Packers coming off their 7th straight win over the Bears, 27-10 at home. Rodgers 19-25, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. 24-5 against the Bears in games Rodgers has started. Rodgers completed passes to 8 receivers. None had more than 3 receptions. Sammy Watkins caught 3 passes for 93 yards. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon look very good. Packers got 203 yards on the ground. Preston Smith had 2 of Green Bay's 3 sacks. They also hit Fields 5 times. Jair Alexander had an interception, and the Packers benefited from the return of Ogden Jenkins. It was the first time he'd played since tearing his left anterior cruciate ligament last November 12th. Buccaneers coming off an emotionally charged 2010 win at New Orleans. Our man Jeff Slaughter was there with his son. Tampa didn't score until Suckup hit a 47-yard field goal with 3:09 left in the third. It tied at 3. Brady 18 of 34, 190 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Mike Evans 3 receptions for 61 yards before he was kicked out of the game from a hard hit on Lattimore. And it was a foolish play, but you could tell that he just hates Lattimore. It's been years of this rivalry. Lattimore's not even that old, so I guess it hasn't been that many years. So
it's not their first run-in.
No, they hate each other. And Mike Evans fucking smashed him. I'm sure it felt so good.
Oh.
But it cost them a game here. Brashard Perryman, 3 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown. Fournette, 24 carries, 65 yards. The defense was strong throughout, sacking Winston 6 times, hitting him 9 times. Shaquille Barrett led the way with 2 sacks, picked off Winston 3 times in the fourth quarter, 2 by Jamal Dean, once by Mike Edwards. Akeem Hicks left the game with a foot injury. Reserve left tackle Josh Wells, who was starting for Donovan Smith, who's inactive, he left with a calf injury. Julio Jones scratched pregame with a knee injury. So this is one of those spots you got to keep your ear to the streets, find out what the hell's going on with the injuries. Papa Kyle says, but Tampa has Beasley now. Oh, I love it.
I can't. If anybody can use him, and hey, Tom Brady with a gritty white slot receiver. Where have we seen that story before? like that's gonna work, right? I don't know what shape Beasley's in, but I guess they had to do something to try to backfill some of these receiver injuries and suspensions. So stay away on the side. I liked the total when it was high. I don't blame people for betting the middle, but no action at these prices. These numbers are about right.
Yeah. I wish this was the Sunday nighter that we could bet live. We'll talk about the Sunday nighter next. Interesting. It's just moved. So if I give you a free $500 bet on the side here at 2.5 at a pick'em, where do you go?
Packers money line. So I always change it. You say side, and I bet a money line anyway. But I would take the Packers side just in a close game like this, and I hate taking 2.5, so I would just bet them straight up. But I think it's going to be very competitive. Whoever can run the ball better, and Green Bay has 2 good running backs to Tampa Bay's 1. although that front is nasty. The Hicks injury isn't great. We'll see what Tom does with his limited weapons. I think it's going to be more leaning on Lenny and that defense. But in a close game, yeah, give me the Packers at a nice money line price.
It will be a fun game. I love being in the cappers contest where you have to make 5 picks, and then also being in a pool where you have to pick every game against the spread.
All of them, yeah.
For the games where you don't have your own action on, at least you can still have some.
Yeah, and to the point of too, like Green Bay's running backs, it's not just how they run, it's how they'll use them in the short passing game too. I think that's probably the way they're going to find the end zone this week.
Oh, I love it. I wish we had action. What a move, 48-41. Holy shit. All right, let's move on to the Sunday Nighter, where you can join me here with a bottle of Kraken. I'd sure love to get Andy to come on for a little bit. I know you have your big halftime show. Do you do that for the Sunday Nighter?
Oh, yeah. I could pop on, though. You do it for the whole damn game?
Of course, whole damn game.
Give me a holler. Maybe I'll come visit.
Okay. Would you rather the Sunday Nighter or the Monday Nighter?
Either one. We'll talk off here. We'll figure it out.
I love you and Whale Capper and your halftime shows. So definitely follow.
We took the under last night in the second half. Never had one quite like that. We sat there and agonized over it, waiting for it. Kept going up. We were waiting for the 24.5. It hits 24.5. We hit the under, and then there's a goddamn point scored. Feels silly sitting there waiting for that hook, and never needed it. But Linder grand slam. Go Mets. I'll come talk in one of these games. Which one's this? They're both kind of ishy, but I kind of have an angle in both.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it. We're going to talk Niners, Broncos. Yeah, last night we hammered all the live bets on the unders in both games. So that's all I want to bet live.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's just the easiest angle for me.
It really is.
I want there to be early scoring, and I want to go underneath it. I especially love it when one team's way ahead. I mean, it just falls into place. Here we will be at 8 o'clock Eastern, but the game starts at 8:20 p.m. Eastern. San Francisco 49ers 1-1, 0-1 on the road at Denver Broncos 1-1, 1-0 home at Empower Field. A mile high, Denver, Colorado, 67 Fahrenheit, clear, 5 miles per hour. I'm looking forward to when weather starts changing things here, but not yet. Let's take a look at the line history in this one. This is a fascinating breakdown. I'm excited to talk about it. Also, obviously, these Niners are near and dear to my heart. We open up with the Niners plus 2.5. And they are now your favorites in this football game, -1. And this is all Pinnacle opening lines. So this was not pre-game last week. This total opened up at 45 and has dropped to 43. Let's take a look at the cash and see if it all correlates here. We have 20% line value according to Sports Insights on the San Francisco 49ers, and they've gone from dog to favorite. 11,512 tickets in. 82% of tickets, 93% of cash on the Niners. 61% of tickets, 82% of cash on the under. Niners had to deal with losing starting quarterback Trey Lance to a season-ending injury on the second drive of the game. And a lot of Niners fans are blaming Shanahan for it. It just seemed like he was calling the same play over and over and over again. Garoppolo came in and delivered right away, 13-21 for 154 yards and a touchdown. Ayuk had 5 catches for 63 yards. Debo, 5 catches for 44 yards, ran 4 times for 53 yards. Jeff Wilson, 18 carries for 84 yards. Caught 2 passes for 19 yards. Nick Bosa, 2 sacks. 49ers got 9 hits on Geno Smith. Deshaun Gibson, Javarius Ward each had interceptions. Tyler Kroft left the game in the second half, the tight end, and didn't return. That's important because Kyle Shanahan's had optimism that Kittle will play for 3 weeks now. So he has it again. We'll see if he does. Some interesting spots, though, for this Niners team that we must watch. There are 2 safeties, Hufanga and Gibson. Remember, Gibson's had 4 days before the preseason finale. Have been their 2 highest-graded defenders through 2 weeks. This was a spot we thought they were very vulnerable. Now it's only been 2 games. Left guard Aaron Banks and rookie right guard Spencer Burford have both earned the 2 highest pass blocking grades on the 49ers offensive line, and they have McGlinchey come back nicely from the quad injury last season. They've surrendered 285 yards, which puts them first in football, 285 a game. Now they haven't been tested, but will they be tested here? Broncos come in off a second straight lackluster performance in a 16-9 win at home over the lowly Texans to give Nathaniel Hackett his first NFL win. Wilson, 14 of 31, 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He opened the game by completing 6 of his first 20 passes, 0 for 4 in the red zone at Seattle on Monday night. Broncos twice drove inside the opponent's 5-yard line, only coming away with field goals. Cortland Sutton, 7 passes he caught for 122 yards. Tyreek Cleveland was the only other receiver that had more than 1 catch, 2 catches for 28 yards. Jerry Jeudy made 1 catch before suffering a rib injury. It made me sad, as our friend Mr. Gokster had 2 player props on Jeudy. One thing that really changed my ROI, Andy, and it was about a little over a year ago, I decided I would never bet a player prop again. And maybe that's too extreme. It's just that I really want to gamble. I really need to scratch that itch at times. And I had to be that forceful, or they would just, seep back in. And it's so important to track all your action. And my ROI was bad on player props, so I just completely cut them out of my life. But shout out to Sharpie, who destroys them on our channel with his Prize Picks show. Javonte Williams ran 15 times for 75 yards. Melvin Gordon, 10 for 47. Draymond Jones had 2 sacks. Team finished with 3 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. So Pat Surtain played 25 snaps. He suffered a shoulder injury. He was replaced by rookie Damari Mathis, who actually looked pretty good, but it's a big loss. So the Broncos could see the return of 2 other starters, though. Inside linebacker Josie Jewell and offensive lineman Billy Turner. Jewell's being sidelined with a calf injury since the first week of practice in the regular season, and Turner's been gradually progressing from a knee injury. Hackett says the 2 are very close. Our Sunday night live game here on Pub Sports Radio. Andy, I can't wait to hear a breakdown. Take it away, Niners-Broncos.
Yes, Surtain and Jeudy expected to play. That said, this move is correct. I have the Niners probably closer to, I'm going to have to double check this, but I think I had them closer to 4.5 on a neutral. So even in a road spot, and it's tough to go to altitude. It's even tougher to do it early in the season. And it's maybe even tougher when you have a quarterback who he didn't actually even practice with the team during the preseason. He was off working on another field separate from the team, just so they could reinforce the idea that this is Trey Lance's team, guys. We don't have a competition. He's a guy who's going to get traded or be a backup here. That said, it's not like he has to learn the offense. He's been around. He's taken this team pretty deep into the playoffs a couple times. Granted, that was based on the defense. This defense is still good. And anything nice you can say about the Broncos, which is tough to do to start with, they've played 2, and just the way I've moved Atlanta, they've played the 2 worst teams in the league according to my power rankings. Even taking Houston's week 1 performance into account, but I have Seattle and Houston. Those are my 2 worst teams. Denver's offense has been hilariously bad considering what they paid Russell Wilson, what they decided to do with their draft picks these last few years, get all these pieces at wide receiver, then they just sit and throw to the running back anyway and call these minus EV plays, the bad scheme, the bad play sequencing, and then they have a coach who's just, again, he's not ready. He's just not ready to manage a team and call plays. I think Hackett can maybe have some luck if he hands off play calling to somebody else. I don't think he just can't multitask or something. They're having problems like, oh shit, we got to call a timeout in a dumb spot. Oh man, now we're going to punt instead of taking a field goal. The debacle in week 1 we won't get into. So if Jeudy is not 100% and still plays, I worry that this offense doesn't get to 10, 14. It's a tough defense. Even defense travels, guys. And I make this closer to Niners -3. So I have a small play on them at a pick 'em. I'd still play it at -1. So I'm playing another road favorite here, although the where they opened was kind of silly. Just all things considered, the coaching mismatch. The only spot where I would give Denver the nod would be at quarterback, and they're just not using Russell in a way that highlights his abilities. So I'm at a loss for why this isn't 3.
-1 at -111 available right now on the Niners. I feel like I just missed the boat here because I would have loved to have taken the Broncos team total under, but now it's moved to 21.5 and the Niners at 23.5, and it's okay to miss the boat, Charles B says definitely under. Let's just take a look at this line history on this total once more. We have
such a big step up in class for the defense that Denver's about to play. The Denver team that I mean, how many points did we get week 1 from them?
7. What is it? 16. 16. They lost 17-16 in week 1.
16 points 2 weeks in a row, and now they go play the best defense they'll face for the first part of the season. Have fun.
Alfonso Scott says still like the 21.5. Is that you have 61% of tickets and 82% cash on the under, and yet it goes from 43 up to 46. Granted, some sharps may have said 46 is way too high and moved then, and it's dropped to 45. But can you give me any angle, Andy, that sharps could be looking at to move that total from like why would so if you have so much money on the under, the books are saying we'll take all your under money. Why would they be doing that?
I think maybe there's a sense that this Denver defense isn't very good either. Just again, based on who they've played, we've seen, how many points did Seattle put up in? Seattle, I think maybe one of those was one of those a defensive touchdown week 1 too, but they've played 2 really kind of bottom of the barrel offenses so far and haven't really seen anything like the weapons the Niners will throw at them. So I wonder if they think the Niners are going to score more than what they're expected to in their team total as well. The Denver defense is just, middle of the pack to maybe a little below average for me. So I don't fully understand the total move. I'm staying away from that. I just like the Niners. It's just such a coaching mismatch. Got a top 5 coach versus a guy who probably doesn't make it out of season 1. Like he might just get left on the tarmac come week 18.
I love the opportunity to live bet the game with all my friends and colleagues. So at this point, I'm not going to force any action. I feel like I've missed a line, and that's okay. I've got enough action, and I'll be there live, and the Broncos could score first, and we could attack. So at this point, I'm going to let it go. But Andy's on the 49ers at -111. I need to make sense of that total going up to 46. I have to before I can move on it comfortably and confidently. That is your Sunday Nighter. Let's talk Monday Nighter. Monday, September 26th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Dallas Cowboys 1-1, 0-0 on the road at the New York Giants, 2-0, 1-0 at home. We're at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, 68 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. And damn, Birdie being so confident on the Cowboys, it made me like you more, Birdie. I want my friends. I want to hang around winners. And that's who you are, Birdie. You were so confident on the Cowboys. And I sat back and I was like, a boy, Birdie. Son of a gun, Birdie. Great job. Let's take a look at the line history in this one. Outright win, Birdie. I know you had money line action on that as well. It's just fun to cheer for you. Here we go. The Cowboys open up at +3. They're now +2.5. That 3 got juiced in a hurry from -105 to -124. Now we're dealing with a 2.5. From a total standpoint, this opened up at 39.5, very low. And there's been a 1 cent move to the under. We'll see if the cash correlates with all of that. We have 24% of the tickets and 34% of the cash on the New York Giants. Well, I find that appealing. 42% of tickets, 67% of cash still on the under, even though it's such a low total. Cowboys coming off a 2017 win at home over the Super Bowl finalist Bengals. Cooper Rush now 2-0 as a starter with 2 game-winning drives on the final possession. Opened up the game with 2 75-yard touchdown drives for Dallas after the Cowboys went without a TD in their opener against the Bucs. He was 19 of 31, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Noah Brown caught 5 passes for a career-high 91 yards and a touchdown. CeeDee Lamb caught 7 for 75 yards. Zeke ran 15 times for 53 yards, and Tony Pollard had a big bounce-back game. Ran 9 times for 43 and a touchdown, caught 4 times for 55. Defense was very strong. Sacked Burrow 6 times, hit him 9 times. Micah Parsons, you've already mentioned him in the show. Andy, what a beast. 2 sacks. He has at least 2 sacks in 5 of the first 18 games of his career. And he joins a list. Mark Anderson, Joey Bosa, Elvis Dumervil, Clay Matthews, and Alden Smith. 5 such games among their first 20. He did in 18. Brian Daboll's changing things in New York. I still don't trust this football team, but I trust Daboll and Kafka. Giants improved to 2-0 for the first time since 2016. 1916 win at home over the Panthers. Jones 22 of 34, 176 yards, touchdown, and 0 interceptions. Richie James led the way with 5 receptions for 51 yards. They got to do something with Kenny Golladay. You got to give him the boot cut or something because it's a problem having him out there. $72 million contract, 2021. 4-year, 72 mil. Saquon Barkley, 21 carries, 72 yards, caught 3 passes for 16 yards. Giants defense had 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. Leonard Williams, he's their best defensive lineman, hurt his knee in the third quarter and left the game. So they were very worried. They thought it was a big deal. He's never missed a game in his career, but it's a sprained MCL. It looks like he'll be unable to play this week, but he's still trying to play. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And Graham Gano, 2 field goals at 50+. And kicked a 56-yarder with 3:34 to play. He's a great kicker. Take it away for us. The Monday night where we will be right here and my Kraken bottle will be much emptier. Cowboys, Giants.
Yeah, another primetime under, guys. And it's a low total. And I'm not betting this. I have not bet this yet. I'm waiting. I want to see what kind of action we get on this side, this total. I think this side's about perfect. Like, it's in New York with Cooper Rush. Like, you had that dead cat bounce of getting him in. Actually, he's not terrible. The Giants defense has not been bad, though. I think they have some nice pieces, and maybe it's just the opponents they've played, but now they get a backup quarterback who's missing some offensive pieces as well. Bound and determined to run Zeke, who looks kind of washed at this point as well. And it's a Dallas defense that I like a lot. I think it's the 6th ranked defense in the league as far as yardage. And it's not like they faced a slouch of an offense last week. So I like this under. I would love to see it get bet up a little. I think I'm going to probably wait until Monday. We're going to wait and see. We're going to see if we can get that public standalone game. Bunch of shitty money comes in. You bet it the shittiest book you have, like the one that just is always shaded towards overs and favorites. You know which ones I'm talking about. I won't dog on anybody, but you probably get a better number on an under there. I think maybe you see some public money come in that get back on the 39.5 with Saquon and the Cowboys. I think we could get that many points, guys. So I will be looking to see if I can get a 40 or 40.5 here later in the week. But I think this one is a real snoozer, and these primetime unders they just keep hitting, guys.
I like the whole thought process. Let's keep a very close eye on this total. It's at 39.5 right now. You have 58% of the tickets on the over, but just 33% of the cash. I'd love it if it would move up to 40. Star Child agreeing with you, Andy, saying if you like the under, maybe wait, pass on this game for me. Brady says Cooper 2-0 in primetime, can't touch this game. Can't step in front of the Giants, but Rush has given me no reason to think he can get this done. I'm more confident in Rush than Jones. Wow, that's interesting. Are you more confident in Cooper Rush than Daniel Jones, Andy?
Yeah. I mean, he's been okay. He kind of just plays within the system. He's not going to go try to go out there and like, oh, I got to put on a show because I'm going to be a starter somewhere. I think he knows his role. Just take care of business. If he can get a couple wins, they're gonna love him when they get Dak back. So, yeah, the Giants are live to lose this game at home because Dallas is still, a decent team, Pollard and whatever's left of that receiving core, and Rush hasn't been bad, but Giants defense sneaky okay. Maybe he gets exposed a little one of these weeks when they finally play a good offense, but yeah, under in the Meadowlands for me is what I'm looking at.
Alex saying 12 straight home unders for the G-men, saying Giants D at home is crazy. There's not been an over since 2020 against Tampa in week 8. Wow.
Ooh.
Wow, that's so cool. I want the under. Maybe I move at 39.5. I'm more concerned this goes to 39. This is one of those games where you have to be so patient, and you'll have to wait till like 8:00 on Monday for it to hit 40. I love it though. Exciting, fun card capping here with Andy Molitor from BetSperts. Check him out at BetSperts, and also the Deep Dive podcast with the Whale Capper. Let's review all of our action. I'm coming off sweeping the board, 9-0 perfection. Let's stay hot here. Andy moves on the under 40.5 at -108, Houston and Chicago. And for the last 2 weeks on these shows, because I'm in the regular season, I'm 21-2. I've not bet before this show. I'm just going to keep doing what's working, talking it out with you guys, staying calm. If you're going to miss some lines, that's fine. I don't trust my gut. My gut's a losing capper. Hanging out with you guys, it turns me into a winning capper. And he's on the Raiders -2 and -110. I want the Colts and I want the Chiefs team total under, but I'm going to have to study that more. And I don't want both. I will not bet both. Buffalo, Miami, I'm curious to see how high this total gets. May make a move on the under. I want the Vikings. I've got to figure out exactly how to do it. I'm not going to force it, and I'm not going to double up. So I'm thinking about the Vikings first half. It's -3.5 right now. I'd sure love it at 3. Let's just look at that once more here. The Minnesota cash flow in this one. 27% of the tickets, 35% of the cash on Minnesota. That's just where I want it. That's just where I like it. I'm moving on Minnesota. I'm just not sure exactly how. Then Ravens, Patriots, we have stayed off at this point. Andy's on the Bengals -4.5 and -108. I'm interested in that, and I'm interested in the Bengals team total over. Let's just take a quick look at cash there. 87% of tickets, 92% of cash on the Bengals. We are not fooling anyone, so that makes me a little nervous. I'm gonna wait. Andy's on the over 47 at -105 and Eagles, Washington Commanders. I'm moving on the Commanders team total over tonight at 19.5. Saints, Panthers, no action. Then I'm interested in both the Chargers and the Jaguars team total under 19.5, but we need to see some clips of Herbert throwing the ball. Have to see that. Rams, Cardinals, we have stayed off. Andy's on the Falcons money line at +110. I'm doubling up here. I'm going to double up. I'm going to be on the under 41.5 and the Seahawks team total under 21.5. I'd like to move on that tonight. Packers, Buccaneers, we have stayed off. Andy's on the 49ers at -111. And at this point, we have stayed off the Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants. Let's stay hot, you guys. Let's stay hot. Stay hot. I love working with you, Andy. Thank you so much for your hard work and your insights. We are very fortunate to have you with us throughout this whole entire season, my man. And also, we have our poker tournament confirmed. It's in 9 days. It is on Wednesday, 8 days. Wednesday, September 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's a free roll. We have a great bonus at BetOnline when you sign up. And it's a free roll. We've put in $500 cash for the top 5. BetOnline's put in 10 tickets to their big $300,000 guarantee to end their Cops poker tournament. So 10 tickets, it's $109 to buy in. So they put in 10 tickets for the top 10. And then there's a $25 bounty on all of the Pub Sports Radio cappers. So that's the last thing for me. Andy, my friend, any last words for the cappers supporting the show?
No, just follow Jimmy on Twitter and just bet what he bets, guys. Right? This is just like playing craps. You don't walk away from a heater. Let's go.
Let's fucking go. Let's have a giant week 3. Let's keep it rolling. We're working together to defeat the juice. That's what we do here at Pub Sports Radio. Every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. right here, Gridiron Gamblers. Thank you, Harold Williams, Don Mack, AJ Mac Beavers, Alfonso Scott, Bananas and Grapes, Son Dizzle, Alec, Harold Williams, Astute Chaos, Nutflush Allen, Birdie, Alfonso Scott, Terry Walker, Papa Cowles, Billy Brisbane. What a great group. Thank you guys so much for your support. Star Child. Let's go out and get that fucking money. Let's go out there and get that fucking money.